Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Iron Age Nights. How is everybody doing this evening?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Glad to be here.
I nailed the intro this week. That's awesome.
It's a good start.
It's a very, very good start to what I hope to be a calamity of a show. I actually haven't put the wall back up.
I noticed
see that, yeah.
all week, and you haven't put it back up.
No, I'm afraid, and two, I've been told by my wife that it's not necessarily a bad thing. Supposedly, she's bought me a Christmas gift that's going to take center stage here, so I'm gonna have to reorganize a bunch of stuff anyway. So I know.
Were there any casualties?
Just my 20-year-old Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Oh, well, I heard that they were all over.
Yes, they were. They
salvageable?
actually ended up being okay. Thank God. Had I actually rolled the chair around, they would have not been okay. And they're somewhat collector's items, and one of the few things that I actually still have from my childhood, because I'm not much of a nostalgic person, but those ones I was like, let's keep those nice. All right, so for everybody in the chat, there's going to be a little bit of a different format here in the front half of the show, or in the front portion of the show here. I am going to, one, say hello to you in the chat. Two, I'm going to give a very, very quick hi hello to my absolutely fantastic co-hosts and our esteemed guest this evening. And then three, we're going to open up the box. What's in the box? Anyway, and we're going to do that. I say it all the time. In fact, there's only a couple of people in my subscribers that will actually do the what's in the box with me. And I love them for it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get down into the chat and say hi hello to everybody. We have Dojo Kun Comics. Sir, you're double dipping.
I know, right?
You're on the stream and you're in the chat. You
need to be everywhere.
Right, everywhere. Dojo Kun Inception. That's what this is. Dojo Kunception.
We'll only worry if he starts asking himself questions.
I know. There you go. There you go. And no, I wouldn't worry if he's asking himself a question. I would worry if he asks himself a question and then responds in kind. I ask me questions all the time, right?
Wouldn't it be rude not to answer though?
It might be. It might be rude.
Depends on
Calvin.
How, Never mind.
No, you're good. Oh, good Lord, Richard. It's Friday.
No, I know.
Calvin Gulata, time to get the band hammer. He loves to bring the thought bots. We have Raul Nyanzi, who had a fantastic interview on Frequency's studio channel yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught that. That was a good conversation. I tuned in for as much as I could. Silent Unseen. Hello, Catherine Francis. How are you doing? Horizon Talker. We have James Craig, who was just a guest on the show a few weeks ago. And for those of you who don't know, James Craig has a fantastic book out right now, The Infinite Money Glitch, which is a fantastically filled comedy fantasy with all the gamer stuff in it that just makes you cringe at gamer stuff. It's fantastic. I love it.
I see that James Craig has another great claim to fame. Go white.
Oh God. Toxic Crusader, hello, how are you? Chris M, it's fantastic to see. He said he was just stopping by to say hi. He's got to get the kiddos to bed. Sir, absolutely. I think many of us here understand that. Sure. Raven Nevermore, it's fantastic to see you down there. Kikomon, hello, good sir. Trippy Soul. Got there we go. Aloy the viewer, hello, how are you? And Swift Sword Rush, it's fantastic to see everybody down in the chat. I am so absolutely happy to be here on this Friday night. And gentlemen, we'll get to the long intros in a minute, but for very, very quickly, let's do a short intro. Mr. Iron Age Media, Richard, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just, keeping up with the site and trying to grind away at all the excitement.
There you go.
Well, maybe that's not the right way to put it, but keep up with the grind from all the excitement.
There you go. I get it. Mr. Daniel P. Riley, how are you, good sir?
Doing well.
Good.
Back to drinking.
There, yeah, God. Oh, good. I'm an
Only on
influence on
Fridays.
people. I'm an
Yeah.
influence on people. That's not a good thing. And Mr. Dojo Kun, comics, I feel like I'm gonna have to call you Mr. DK for this stream. How are you doing this evening?
You know, Mister would be my dad, but you can just call me Dojo.
Dojo.
All right.
I'm down with it. Dojo.
All right.
No, fantastic. And like I
I
said, we
only
will
put
get
up
to
with the Mr. Daniel Riley because it's actually my Twitter handle.
Yes. Yes. I call people sir all the time and they're like, sir is my father. I'm like, yeah, but I use sir like most people use dude. I think like my wife will say some stuff. She'll be like, hey babe. I'm like, sir. The joke goes all the way back, and I won't start on my tangents already, but it goes all the way back to some cooks that I worked with. Every time you're like, hey man, I need this. Can I get it extra? It's, sir. I'm like everything was sir to those guys. So that's kind of
They trained you.
Yes, they did, dude. Chefs in a kitchen, man. The most foul language, and I'm a construction worker. Most foul language I've ever heard are chefs in a kitchen. I've not heard military people use language like chefs do.
It's wild behind the line, man. Trust me.
Dude. Okay, you get it then. You totally get it.
I've been there. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's absolutely insane. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I have here a box. What's in the box? I can't not say it. I'm compelled to say it. What's in the box? And what is in this box? I have already been told what's in the box. What's in the box?
You need that sounder.
Yep.
Huh?
You need that sounder.
I know. I should get it. I actually, if I were a proper streamer, I would have set up all this stuff months ahead of time. But I suck at this, so we're just gonna roll with it. Do it live. And in this box happens to be some gifts that Brian Asher, the first guest of Iron Age Nights, he reached out and said, I want to send you something to give away for your channel as a thank you to all of your subscribers and as a thank you to you for having me on. And so we are going to open the box and see what exactly he sent, not to me, but to some of my lucky subscribers out there. Probably should not be handling a knife as,
really?
I'm just saying, like I've already had beer. It's a drink with crazy, ladies and gentlemen. It's a drink with crazy. How do you lose his thumb? So you see,
he's finally using it away from his body.
I was gonna say,
no. I was holding it like
I know, and then you turned it.
He's a professional.
Here's the funny part too: is I am actually the safety manager.
I didn't say professional at what.
Right. How did Royce lose his thumb? So you see, what happened was,
it was the 911 stream,
right? You just put some duct tape on it. Put some duct tape and some paper towel over it. It'd be all right.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't actually tell you how many times I've done that.
Same.
Some electrical tape and then some paper towel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have here in my hands, and I have been told from Brian Asher that there is a special message in every one of these books for all of my viewers. So this is a brand new Treasure of Lorev and a brand new The Assassin of Malkozeh. And I am not going
on by the dog, by the way.
I know that has not been no, that one's over here. The one that's got gnawed on by the dog is over here. But I have made the decision that I am not actually going to open up the books and read the message to my viewers because I want that to be something special for them. So I am simply going to show them. I've been told it's in there, but as I just said, I cannot confirm or deny whether or not, in fact, this special message is in there. So let's move some things out of the way.
He has no reason to disbelieve it, though.
Yeah.
No, you have no reason. I'm completely trustworthy, right? Richard, right?
No, I meant Brian Asher.
Yeah.
We can trust Brian Asher.
I was going to say, he seems much more reliable.
Oh, way more reliable. Except for his phone service that one night. That was...
Yeah.
And we have another set of books. And we have another set of books here. So keep in mind, guys, that we're going to be doing a giveaway on the channel next Friday. Okay? How are you going to join the giveaway. Well, you guys are going to join the giveaway. By the way, Leather Monkey. That fell off the wall last week.
Monkey.
You guys are going to join the giveaway by sharing my locals page and getting people over to my locals. And I am going to do my giveaways over on my locals page. I am not done with the box. I am just sharing a link because there are some insane things that are in here, if I remember correctly. Why did it not copy the whole link? You ever do that? You go to copy something and it copies half of it, and you're just like, wow, why am I on this weird site?
A drink with Boomer
Yep.
returns.
I leave it to Richard to say that.
Oh, and look at that. There's one more set of books.
So that's 3 total.
That is 3
There we
total
go.
sets of books that will be given away from Mr. Brian Asher.
All for you.
And then on top of that, oh, he put them all in one thing. I have here custom prints and custom artwork of all of his characters. The grand prize winner
Oh.
will win 1 set of books and will win 1 set of the custom artwork
Very nice.
and 1 set of the characters as well.
Oh, character cards. Very
And he
nice.
sent me
Wow.
he sent me a
Wow.
ton of the characters and character cards. So the grand prize winner will win all 3. The runner-up will win a set of books and probably some of these fantastic prints. And then actually, you know what? With everything that he sent, I think I might be able to just make them all 3 the same. I would have to double check, but I think he sent me 3 sets of everything. So I might just have a first, second, and third place, and you guys all get books, you all get pictures, and you all get the custom sets of prints here. So
Yeah, equality.
I am. Oh, and look at this. This is the library. If you guys
That
read
is one of the
Assassin
best pictures in that set.
Oh, dude, here's the crap part. I actually want to keep some of them. I wanted to ask him to send me an extra to keep for myself, but I thought that I would be just a giant D-bag for doing that, so I did not ask him for the
Never hurts to ask. What's the word
I-
she's gonna say? No, pay for it.
I'm shy and somewhat humble and
Shy,
you
he
know.
says.
Shy and humble. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what did I get told? I got told by one of my gilded members is I am the most arrogant, humble person they've ever met in their life. And I'm just like, yeah, that tallies. So, ladies and gentlemen, go join my locals page. Go join my locals. It's down in the description. And if you guys so choose, go support me over on locals. We have a locals chat going on right now where you guys can go over, have some fun, share some memes, and have a good time, and say all of the things that you would love to say to me, but you can't say on YouTube because YouTube protects my sensitive little self. And so I am going to put all of your fantastic gifts from Mr. Brian Asher back into their proper wrapping. And then while I do that, Mr. Richard from Iron Age Media, which, by the way, he has a YouTube channel, which should be down in the link in the description if I did my job
indeed.
correctly. How are you doing, good sir?
Doing very well. Speaking of the YouTube channel, I actually had a interview this week with Cursova magazine that I thought was very interesting. I enjoyed it, and I think if you enjoy Cursova, you should check it out. And also, our prompt voting for November has started. I do the weekly image prompts that are for short stories, and I collect the submissions at the end of every month and have a public straw poll that anybody can vote in. And then next week, let's see here, I guess it will go through Saturday night. So on Christmas morning, a victor will have been chosen. And I'll run a locals poll on the subsequent 8. But whoever wins there, the popular vote will get featured, and then we'll go from there. But a lot of good stories. I've been reading through them. I have missed a couple in the process, so I'm going back and grabbing what I didn't get. But
None for me.
check it out. I put the link in private chat, by the way.
Awesome. I will be sharing that right now. So thank you so much, and thank you
Do it
for
now.
finally sharing something with me that I can actually share
I,
with the people.
you know, I try to do the absolute
Uh,
minimum.
I know. You guys suck at shilling. You guys suck at, like, shilling is it's openly
Hey,
allowed on my channel, and you guys
I can
suck.
chill for anybody but myself.
You suck at shilling.
Oh, well,
I do.
actually, speaking of shilling, we did finally get Daniel to write an article about his author group this week
I
as
read
well.
that
So check
article
that
like
out.
weeks ago. I just didn't do
Well,
any of
I
the
know, but you
back-end
didn't get me a
stuff.
bio page like I asked. And then we
Oh,
had
hey, yeah,
had
bio
some kind of
page.
discussion about aspect ratio. So anyway,
Yeah, well,
um,
that was
Am
my
I still
boomer moment.
supposed to send you something?
yes, but we'll worry about that later. Um,
Please remind me of what I'm
you don't
supposed to
have any
send you in the
articles.
guild.
I'll help
Iron
you out.
Age
I don't.
Nights, the most dysfunctional live stream ever.
I know this is great. We're really right on point tonight. Anyway, check out his laureate article as well if you want to read more about the great stuff that Daniel does.
There shall
Aside
be
from his
more.
art
Absolutely.
or his not art,
fantastic.
his writing.
Oh, that's
That's
great.
a nice
Mr.
one.
Daniel P. Riley, good sir, what are you up to and how are you doing this week?
I'm doing much better this week, actually.
Good.
I am just about finished with Comedy Strategy. I've about hit my word count, so now I got to go back and take a look and make sure it flows the way I want it to. But I'm impressed with it. Got a lot of artwork coming back, mostly line art stuff. I will probably in January do a reveal of the GSI 2 cover here on stream with you guys. I've already shared it with YouTube, but I'll reveal it to the rest of the world. And yeah, putting the functional in functional alcoholic. I like that. Cheers to that. Yeah, and I am working on, hopefully by the end of next week, a Chronicler's Christmas story.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Absolutely awesome.
Very cool.
And really quickly, before I get to you, Mr. Dojo Kun Comics, I actually did a poll this last week trying to figure out how in the hell I'm going to balance out super chats with the normal show and the guest and the conversation. And basically, it's a toss up and nobody can make up their minds. So, what we're going to do here is Kikomon for $2 says, like the video and you'll get a Kiko splash. Oh, good sir. Oh, that's for Saturday nights, not for Friday.
I don't know if
nights.
you
We're
want that.
slightly more reverent here on Fridays. And Kikomon also gifted a drink with crazy membership. I have to say absolutely thank you to him. He is one of
It's
my
Kikomon. He can
largest-
do what he wants.
yeah, well, yeah, no, he does. He does do that. So, and James Craig was gifted the membership by Kikomon, so that's fantastic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's get to our esteemed guest, Mr. Dojo Kun Comics. How are you doing, good sir?
It's been a very interesting and rough week, some family health crises, but I'm glad to say I got through it, and I'm here on the show, and I have no problem shilling, or as your chat says, promoting. To being on this show, I've also got a weekly show that I do on Wednesday nights called Incendiary. I too have co-hosts that come on there with me on a regular basis, and we make it a debate show. Last Wednesday's show was horror. Does it belong in comics?
I actually listened to that while I was driving for my job. It's great listening to. Yeah.
We have fun with it, and we throw up a disclaimer now that even if we all four agree with our guest, two of us take the opposing viewpoint and have a debate. And that's actually kind of fun to take the point that you don't actually hold and try and make the point against it.
And
I've been told I'm pretty good at that myself.
What was it you and who was it? You guys eviscerated that.
I know. Yeah, Smiling Bandito and I actually did far better than we should have because our guest was a horror author.
You guys, I mean, just well, and you guys came across like that. You really did come across like that was a position you actually held. And by the end, you guys, and what I love is by the end, you guys just kind of, you kind of drop the charade, as it were. And you just kind of talked about it. And you realize you all kind of like agree that, that comics is actually a decent medium for for comics, but the position that you guys took, like in the arguments, I'm like, I know these guys don't believe it, but I'm starting to believe it. Like, it was fantastic.
We did intentionally
Um,
at the end backpedal a bit because, as I mentioned on the show, I actually authored a 100-page horror comic book. So I didn't want people to not go out and look for that and buy it.
That's really
I
cool,
will,
though.
and again, these guys, the super chats,
You know what?
tell me if I'm wrong for doing it.
The
but
normal
I
etiquette is
chats,
to
let's
just
go.
read them when you see them.
Yeah.
I think that's just what I'm gonna have to do because I can't.
Yeah.
I've tried a
'Cause
couple
if you
different
wait too
things.
long-
and,
If you wait too long, they're way past and you miss it and you can't go back to it.
Show the chat some
All
love.
right. So JVP Music says, "Can you read this at the end?" Oh, damn it!
No, you can
Do it
read this
No,
anyway.
at
no,
the
go ahead
end.
and read it. You started.
Yeah, Richard's like,
You can read this at the. Oh, you can read
I
this.
like
at the
you
end.
can read it again later as well.
Yeah.
You can read it a couple times.
And you're still my boy. Shout out to Richard. Let's all show for him because he's
Thank
doing
you.
something special with Iron Age Media. It deserves attention. He is doing something
Indeed.
special with
Truth.
IronAge.media, and that is why he is my co-host. And you can go find his YouTube channel down below.
and why I
yes.
do
Thank
what
you,
he
sir.
says begrudgingly.
Yes, that's also a thing. He does that. He does that. I am not neglecting the locals. I am not neglecting the locals, guys. But over on the locals, we have a $2 tip from Kikomani. He says, please, please, oh, please let the box have soy. The box didn't have soy. It does have fantastic stuff from Brian Asher that I really want to keep. But maybe, you know what? I'm a member of my locals. Maybe I'll just win one of those prizes. That's
There
how
you
that
go.
works, right? It's like Chicago, right? I can do that. Frequency
Rigged.
Studios for $5 says, don't forget to tip your bartenders. Absolutely not. And if you guys want to go over there and just make my locals chat absolutely worse than it already is with some of the stuff that the guys share over there, go over there and check out the locals chat. So Dojo, gotta ask you a question and I want to ask you a couple of questions. But the
I'm
first
ready.
one I want to ask you, what got you into writing comic books and into that world and that sphere?
Well, I've been collecting comics for almost 50 years now. Started when I was a youngster. We were on our way to Florida and stopped at a 7-Eleven. Dad saw me just mesmerized by the spinner rack and said, why don't you get a couple? And he turned out to be quite the enabler because that became a lifelong obsession. It was a copy of Amazing Spider-Man and a copy of Uncanny X-Men. So both of those were really good
That's
pickups,
awesome.
obviously.
Excellent titles, especially back then.
Right. Yes, it was the Claremont Byrne run of the
Mm.
X-Men. So it was the perfect time to jump in there and really fall in love with it. Now, you asked, though, what got me into writing comics. So for
Mhm.
years, I read them. In 1999, I decided, because of just finances, my ex had just had 2 of our sons, and it was just too much to collect everything. I actually quit cold turkey, stopped collecting them completely for about 13 years,
Oh, wow.
but it didn't stick because I
That's
kept
how
seeing
bad
it.
habits do.
Yeah, I kept seeing it come up on, Facebook and online and all that. I'm like, maybe if I just, so what I did, I literally chose 3 characters that I love: She-Hulk, Juggernaut, and Superboy, the one who had the black t-shirt with the jeans.
Mhm. Yeah,
Those
it was
are my
my
3
favorite Superboy.
3 favorite characters. And I said, I'm only going to collect books that they appear in. Well, She-Hulk has appeared in 2,800 and some comic books, and I have them all.
Wow.
Yes,
Right on.
I had a bunch of them right from the start in 1980 when she debuted in February. But I went back for the 13 years I had stopped collecting and pieced that together. And I was so enamored with the character and what John Byrne did with her during his Fantastic Four run, I decided I was going to write a She-Hulk script and try to submit it to Marvel. Well, I wrote it, I polished it, I repolished it, and then I scoured the Marvel site for how do you submit to Marvel. And it took a while to find it. It was a small paragraph at the bottom of one of the pages, and basically it says, you don't.
Mhm.
It said, go get published, we'll find you. All
Yep.
right. So I went to a site called zwall.org, Zwol is ZWOL, and it's short for the guy who created. His last name is Walensky. And on that site, there are writers, artists, colorists, letterers, etc., of varying prices and skill levels. And they put out ads. Some of them are publishers. They put out ads, and one of them said, "We need somebody to help write our comics and help us with our accounting." And well, I've been an accountant.
Specific.
Yeah, I'd been an accountant for 16 years, an auditor for several years, and I thought, have we met? I mean, wait, what? So I sent them my resume, showing that I had the credentials I did for the accounting side of it, and I sent the script. I said, obviously, I can't write She-Hulk for you, but here's an example of how I write scripts. And they got back to me within a couple of hours and hired me. So
Very nice.
I worked for 2 small press companies before starting my own. And I started my own in 2014. And the current campaign, Projectile Reptile, will be the 14th book that I published, comic book.
And how many pages? Usually,
Projectile Reptile. Oh, usually. Well, before I got into crowdfunding, they were about 22 to 24 pages.
Okay.
There are
That's
few,
a good size.
like,
That's what I've always viewed comic books to be, about 20 to 30 pages usually.
yeah, see, the thing is with that, though, that's typically if you're on a monthly pace. I think that if you're doing them 1 or 2 a year, you need to give them more bulk so that your readers, 1, enjoy the amount of writing you've done, and 2, hopefully keeps their interest because they have a few months worth of reading in your one book.
Enough to chew on. Yeah.
Right. Now, I did mention that I had a 100-page horror story that I wrote. A few of them were more than the 24-page floppy. My first crowdfunder was in 2020, toward the end of the year, and was fulfilled in 2021. It's called Siamese. That was 100 and some pages, but what that did was it was a trade paperback that brought together a 4-issue miniseries that I had written. So Projectile Reptile, the current campaign, will be 48 pages. And then I've already planned Siamese 2 to launch in February or March of 2023.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, you got a lot on your plate there.
Oh yeah, I do. With the show every week, plus I have a short form video that posts every night at midnight, plus the books that I'm writing, and I've got the Ashcan coming together that's going with this book. So I've got writers, a couple of writers, but I've got mostly artists, colorists, and letterers that are sending me pages because now that we funded, it's time to get ready to fulfill.
Very cool. So is this a full-time endeavor for you?
I wish. No.
Okay.
During the day, I am a fraud examiner and anti-money laundering specialist.
Very cool.
Okay,
Although,
what the
not a
hell
full
does that
comic.
even mean?
Probably sounds cooler than it actually is, right?
Like,
well, you know what?
I feel like you need to be going again, like after like Leonardo DiCaprio and like Catch Me If You Can. Like that's what that sounds like.
Correct me
so
if I'm
old.
wrong. It just means like a very nosy accountant, right?
No, that would be when I was an auditor.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Those guys are
now that I'm a
really
fraud examiner, I actually do have interrogation interviews to try and get
Oh.
people to admit what they've done. But as an anti-money laundering specialist, I'm actually looking for, money laundering. I'm looking for human trafficking, drug trafficking, and terrorist financing.
Wow.
Interesting.
And
Stuff.
I just recently posted a video on my channel, Dojo Kun Comics on YouTube, that talks about the shadow banning that's going on by one of the crowdfunding platforms and how I assert that that is in violation of FTC Act of 1914, Section 5. And basically everybody's like, oh, that little chestnut. but what that's about is deceptive practices and unfair practices in commerce. So because they've done that to some campaigns, you can't stumble across their campaign when you're doing Explore and Comics.
Was this because of the Mike Barron controversy that had happened, or was this just overall they're just shadow banning a ton of people right now?
They are shadow banning a ton of people. Mike's is one of the more recent larger campaigns that they did that to, but they're not just doing it to their former pros. Justin Murphy, who's known as Professor Murph, with his campaign War Party. It's happened to him now, and he's a first-time creator. Now, I'd have to say that for someone who's doing a campaign, he's the gold standard on how to do it to keep the hype train going. He's just a great example of how to run a campaign. But now that he's shadow banned, it's going to be hard for people. You can't search for his campaign. You've got to have this specific URL. And that is where, if you look at it, that's an omission on their part. And it's unfair because they're not shadow banning everyone, obviously. So I think that they're in violation of that act with that. And I did tag Nick Ricada, hoping that he'll put his, his lawyer hat on that, and the two of us can talk about it.
That well, and I did a video. When did I do that one? I did a video a few weeks back, and a funny thing was it was after library.com lost their suit against the SEC, and essentially the precedent there is that the SEC rules against libraries, saying that the SEC says that library has essentially what's going to turn into like this lawsuit against, it's this ruling against cryptocurrency. And the funny thing is this ruling comes down and I go, oh, so it basically makes cryptocurrency a counterfeit currency. And then people go, no, it doesn't. I'm like, really? Because the Federal Reserve released that same week their 12-week pilot program for the Federal Reserve digital currency. So yes, that was that was a very, very interesting happenstance to happen. And I bring that up because I sent that to Nick Ricada as well, thinking, hey Nick, can you get your lawyer brain on this, because that would be great. So I think a lot of people send stuff to Nick and we're like, hey, cover this stuff, and then Nick
poor Nick is like looking at his inbox going,
nope.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I don't envy that guy. I mean, I kind of do, but I also don't. I envy the nice liquor that he has, like. But so
does seem to have a lot of it.
He does. I have beer. That's my drink of choice. So Dojo, I've listened to quite a few, not quite a few, but like more than a few of your incendiaries since I met you on John De La Rosa's show. And the one that really struck me, and I loved the conversation that you had, was about it was what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago you did one, and it was about like sexuality in comics. And
Graham Nolan was on that show. Yep.
Yes, and it was the idea between having like sexy characters in comics and sexualized characters in comics, and how you guys kind of went on that. Now, that was not nearly as good of an argument as the horror show one that happened a few days ago. That was a massacre. But anyway, no pun intended. But but seriously, what gave you the idea to structure a show every week that you're just like, okay, here's the topic, whether we all agree, it doesn't matter. Two of you've got to go in this corner, and the other two of us have to go in this corner. What gave you the idea for that show? Because that's a fantastic idea for a show.
Well, I appreciate that. And one of the reasons we did that is we wanted to bring something different. We had seen lots of different shows that were interesting, but they were all becoming very similar. And so we wanted to do something that was different, fun, and, we can rib at each other quite a bit. We try to keep the expletives to a minimum, but, now and then they slip in there.
I'm a construction worker. Wait until this show hits about 10:30. It comes out.
Yeah. Okay. We had a lot of fun just coming up with the idea, the structure, telling the guests that they have to pick their position, and then they get to pick their ally and their two opponents. And what that does is that leaves one person to be the mediator if we're all there. And the mediator sort of pushes it along, sort of toward the end, decides who the winners were. But Smiling Bandito and I decided last Wednesday that we were the winners. So
I mean, you guys kind of were. I'm not gonna lie. And gentlemen, I know my co-hosts here are very busy, so I don't know if they were able to catch it. And like I said, long form content is my bread and butter because I do a fair amount of driving for my work, and so when I have that much windshield time, it's nice to have things that I can listen to that I actually appreciate instead of daytime FM radio, which should have died 30 years ago. Anyway, and so I don't know if you guys actually got a chance to listen to any of that incendiary that I sent you, but
Yeah.
I
did
started.
you?
I didn't get very far though.
Yeah, well, that's
Hopefully that just
like
means you ran out of time, not got
Well,
bored.
No, it wasn't that it was boring. It's
Okay.
when it comes to my daily schedule of writing and stuff, I can't listen to other people talk while I write.
Oh,
It
sure.
gets confusing in my head, and it'll actually influence what I'm writing in whatever way. If I hear certain inflections, intonations of cheer or anger, then it will affect what I'm writing.
All right. Well, if that
In that
happens, I
same
want co-writer
manner, so-
credit.
Yeah. So no, I don't listen to anything that has words when I'm writing, which is usually about 2-3 hours of my day. So
Okay. So,
I started listening to it while I was driving, and it was sort of sporadic stop and start because I was running errands. So I didn't get very far, but I started listening to it all the same.
awesome. One of the things you mentioned, Crazy, was that, a lot of windshield time. My commute used to be 2.5 hours one way,
Mhm.
but because of the pandemic, it's
Wow.
0. I can work from right here. And the great thing about that is that's 5 more hours I'm at home. Now, obviously, the beginning
Oh,
of the
yeah.
day, I'm not getting a lot done, but as soon as I sign out, I get to work on Dojo-kun Comics. So that's a silver lining for sure.
Yeah.
I actually made the transition from a job where I in my previous job I would drive to different locations, and I would check up on those locations and send back weekly status reports to the bigwigs. And the closest job to me was an hour away. The average job from me was 2.5 hours away. And the furthest ones away were 4 to 5 hours away. So, and sometimes I used to do that all in a day. And I recently transitioned into a position closer to home, and it's 30 minutes away.
There you go.
So it's
Yeah,
not
it's
as
crazy.
instant. It's not as instant as what yours is. But I absolutely understand like going. And the hours are more consistent too. So I know that I'm going to be home at this time every day, and I have that much more time to focus on this here and what I'm trying to build here. And that's huge. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Jinx, you guys owe each other a Coke.
Not a problem.
Well, I'm going to turn it over because the last time I got a little bit out of hand talking about
Well, I was
raw cow's milk
curious.
and military stuff, and it was a bad show last week. Anyway, so Richard, what's on your mind? What
I
would
was
you like to
curious
talk
about your current project with projectile reptile. Is this the first projectile reptile that you've done? Because I thought I'd seen some previous stuff, or was that just concept art?
That must have been concept art because this is the
Okay.
first book with that concept in it. It started out as a Western called The Cactus Kid. And
Okay.
as I was writing it, I was deciding, I was thinking I'd really like my connected superhero universe to be just that, connected. So I thought, how can I take this from the old American West and get them involved with Siamese, with Deanna Hammer of the Angels, and several other of the projects that I've got in the queue. I actually have 8 or 9 scripts already written. So, it's a matter of just trying to make sure that they flow together and that one will lead into the other.
So
Sorry, I was not
I have a
laughing at
question
you.
for
It was
you.
that comment. Jeez,
It
Calvin.
was our Thoughtbot purveyor.
Yeah.
Big
no.
pimping down there.
Yeah.
Pimping.
Well, I was going to ask. So that kind of begs the question to me: if it started out as the Cactus Kid and now is projectile reptile, was he always going to be green? Was that
No,
the central
actually,
premise?
he was just going to be an outlaw that became the sheriff, and instead that became a very quick element in the story, and then a lot more than that happens afterward. So he becomes projectile reptile inadvertently. Even the person who makes that happen didn't intend for that to happen. And there's a little bit of time travel involved. That's how he gets involved with the superheroes in modern day Los Angeles. But this isn't going to be the kind of thing where time travel becomes a trope to fix mistakes that are made. It's going to be one time forward. That's it. There might be some flashbacks, but he's not going back to fix anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did that, because time travel as a story mechanic gets very retarded very fast. And there are few things that can pull it off properly. And I would even argue the one thing that everybody says pulls it off great is the Back to the Future movies. And I would even argue that by the time you hit the second one, time travel gets a little wonky, but it's definitely in a different framing. And so it's a lot more acceptable in the framing of Back to the Future. Time travel, when it comes to movies like, say, I don't know, Avengers Endgame, is complete and utter garbage, and it makes the movie absolutely worthless. So what makes you say, okay, you can time travel once in the future, or that's just how we're going to play this, and go there?
The reason I say that is I think using time travel to correct things or change the past is lazy writing. I think if you've got something that you need to fix it like in the current day, and or it can't be fixed. It's just the way things happened, and so be it. You've got to now deal with that. So I think that going back in time to do that is too lazy. I don't want to be a lazy writer. I truly want to emulate Marv Wolfman during his New Teen Titans days and Chris Claremont during his Uncanny X-Men days. Both of those guys, I think, are the gold standard when it comes to writing a team, which eventually my superheroes will become. Because not only does he write them, with crazy energy, with crazy action, but he also treats them, the characters, both of them did, like they are not just a team, not just friends, but family.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Back when Cyclops wasn't a total dick, he was actually a great leader for the X-Men. After having faced
a humble
Proteus,
leader too. That's one of a lot of things that people kind of miss on Cyclops, is he was a fairly humble leader.
Well, he was humble, but he was confident in his own abilities.
No, but that's the thing that you need is a lot of people think of humble as weak or unwilling to take a stand, but humility, it has just been kind of lost in the modern like nomenclature. And I
not only that, but there's also the lead by example aspect of leadership characters in media, and that there's a great saying, I cannot for the life of me remember who actually said it, but
I thought you were saying you couldn't remember how it goes, but that's
no, I remember how it goes, and it's a leader would never ask you to do anything they wouldn't do themselves.
Right.
And that was a core principle, especially back in that Uncanny X-Men run of Cyclops. He would not expect anyone to do anything that he wasn't willing to do himself.
Yeah.
He was also willing to put himself in peril. After facing Proteus and Proteus messing with Wolverine, Storm, and Nightcrawler, he actually picked a fight with all three of them to make sure they were okay.
Yep.
And when they realized that that's what he was doing, their respect for him, tripled. And I thought, number one, that was a great thing for the leader to do to make sure they were okay. But then number two, Claremont wrote that the other characters, even Wolverine, who's completely irreverent all the time, had a greater respect for Cyclops because he took that risk.
Yep.
So it's things like that I think were great writing. Another one that had a great run was Byrne's Fantastic Four. When the Thing was on Battle Planet and She-Hulk took his place, he treated them with respect. The characterization was absolutely on point. But then I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got enamored with his own cleverness. But then when he wrote Sensational She-Hulk, she became nothing but the butt of a joke. Everything, all of the villains she faced were all D-listers. The breaking of the fourth wall wasn't his idea, by the way. Although She-Hulk and Animal Man both did it around the same time, way before Deadpool, Superman broke the fourth wall decades earlier. Basically, at the end of almost every issue, he would look at the reader, say something smarmy, and wink,
Yep.
like he knew we were all there. So
Mhm.
breaking the fourth wall was far before Deadpool, She-Hulk, or Animal Man. But yeah, when he wrote Sensational She-Hulk, it was kind of a disappointment because he had done so well with the character during the Fantastic Four. I don't know what happened.
Sure, too many cooks in that pot.
Could be. And then
Well,
the
and-
TV show tried to emulate that instead of the good
Mhm.
part, and
Well, and that seems to be the problem with any good story is that, you know, the longer a good story goes on, the more time you have for the corporate overlords to want to get involved, thinking that they know what would make that story even better,
right.
Mhm.
with their metrics and their research, and try to repeat that. And it's almost like you can never, you know, quite recapture the lightning in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't know if Dojo will agree with me here, but that's always been one of my concerns with comics, because I wrote my superhero novel, Legacy of Heroes, because I was concerned about the concept of comic books being endless and it becoming over saturated and boring. There's only so much you can tell of a story. Eventually it has to end somewhere, and a new story has to begin somewhere. Comics, one of the things that burned me out on them probably around the 2000s, like maybe late 2000s, early 2010 era, was the established titles had been going on for so long that they were running out of cool stuff to do, and it all started to feel like it was on repeat with different faces.
Mhm.
Well, I think to a certain extent there's some of that because, like you said, they've been going on for 80 years, some of them,
Exactly.
and it's hard to come up with something new for Parasite to do to get Superman's goat, for example, or
Yeah.
Mhm.
But at the same time, though,
Well, Superman
what
will
you
be
need,
celebrating 100 years in like what, just a little over a decade now.
yes.
I mean,
So
Superman
it's
will be
difficult to come
100
up with
years old.
something new
Mhm.
for characters that have that kind of iconic backgrounds. And unfortunately, the big two are deciding to either saturate us with 100 different versions of their already created characters,
Mhm.
or they're trying to throw in all of their the lessons they want us to learn
Right.
instead of just
The
you know
message.
right, the
Mhm.
message, the agenda, whatever you want to call it. It's something that I think really pushed a lot of people to become the indie comics creators that we are.
Correct.
And you know what, a lot of pros, and this has come up recently, a lot of pros have been saying, why should I give you some of my greatest ideas to make them like my greatest villain? I'm going to create him and you're going to have him in Superman, and then later destroy him, or later have 50 different versions of him or whatever, when instead they can use their own ideas for their own IP
Mhm.
and keep control and the finances of it, etc. I think in a lot of cases, sure, they want the money, duh, but they also want control of their creative creations. I mean, it's something that it's our baby. I don't want you to do something different with it. I want Siamese to be like this and do this, and that's their
Mhm.
character.
Yeah. But there's sort of a centralized I guess universe for the big two that they work on. They can hit 8 million different angles with different characters, whereas the solo producer of, say, a comic book like an author like me, can only produce X amount of things in a year that showcase X amount of characters, whereas they can be like, here's 14 different titles, each one has 4 different heroes in it.
Mhm.
Exactly. They've got that kind of resource
Mm-hmm.
based on merchandising and movies and things like that. Although I also mentioned this recently, and it's odd in some cases where those characters. I'll use Green Lantern again as the example. Green Lantern's facing
One of my
this
favorites.
this terrible villain who's he's like barely able to save the world. Why not just call Kal-El? But
Mhm.
then if you
Mhm.
do that every time, it's not going to be Green Lantern anymore. It's going to be Justice League.
Yep.
So he's got to
Yeah.
save the world on his own. But as a kid, I always wondered, why not just call your buddies?
Well, I so One of the things that I thought about because I had that very similar thought when I was a kid, but then I also had
We
the
all did.
idea of like, well, yeah, why not just call the other guys? And then I think to myself, I'm like, well, wait, if this superhero is dealing with like one world-ending thing, why aren't the other superheroes also dealing with that? And that's about the only way that I could justify it, right?
Mhm.
Is in a world of fantastical people, and they're always dealing with, world-ending calamity. And that's the comic book story that like I don't see very often, and I would love to see, is like they reach that world-ending calamity, and like Green Lantern has to phone a friend, and that friend is like, hey bro, I'm actually dealing with my own calamity.
World's ending over
Sorry.
here too. Sorry, bud.
Like, and then you just see it, and it's just, and then that could lead into the other comic book. You know what I mean? That'd be a fun little tie-in, but they never handle it like that. And if they would just handle it like that and be like, guys, the reasons that superheroes don't help other superheroes out all the time is because, well, they're busy being superheroes. Like they come together for like the really big things that not just one of them can handle, and that's something that's just poorly emphasized in the
Well,
storytelling of
I'm
a lot
working
of
on that
comics.
with LOH too.
Nice.
I mean, I also think there's a certain amount of suspension of belief, right? I mean, we're already dealing with superheroes, you know, like
It depends on how far you want to go with it, because
that is true.
like if you take DC for example, they had a major focus on magic side, they had a major focus on space side, they had a major focus on ground earth level, catastrophic events. So there were things going on in every which direction, and because I love Green Lantern, Green Lantern's whole thing was out in space. He'd come down to Earth to help out, but most of his stuff was out there in the stars, preventing things from coming to the planet in the first place. So he was up there doing his thing. He didn't really need to call Superman, who was flying around the Earth, making it rotate in the wrong direction to turn back time or whatever.
Which would destroy it, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I always found that so funny. I was like, wait, even as a child, I'm like watching that going,
yeah,
I don't think that works.
I genuinely like hated that part of
I mean, it was
going to shout out
fun, and it worked for the movie, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously, I didn't buy it because of flat Earth is obviously how we live here.
You just flipped the planet over like a penny.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that. Everybody fall off. But I don't want to school you guys about that. So.
I want to say thank you to Kikomon for gifting all the memberships that he has been gifting. Kikomon's been
pretty
down there
soon.
Chat.
Age Media is just going to be talking about the lizard people that live in the core of the planet.
God.
I mean, I thought that's what Projectile Reptile was, but
Well played.
I mean, you threw that one down the center, so
I had to take a swing. It was too easy. But so I actually do have a question for your
segue.
My chat is the best.
Yeah. We'll make those out of anything on this show.
Right. No, what was I going to say? One of the things I've always kind of felt, and I have not read a ton of comics, but mainly the older stuff, but I always kind of felt like once you get superheroes like teaming up and then they kind of like go their separate ways, that's whenever I feel that more. Are you going to you said that you were eventually wanting them to form a team,
right?
And I have some more questions about that, but once they form the team, are they kind of together, or are they is it going to be kind of like an occasional sort of like get together, save the world from major event, and go your separate ways?
X-Men or Justice League, essentially.
Yeah, so the plan is they will be together at that point.
Okay.
If they're popular enough, or somebody says, hey, I'd really like to see a story about so-and-so, then I might have like a supplemental book or an ash can or something of that character.
Yeah.
But yeah, once they're together, they will be Trident's New Alliance. And going forward, that will be my main book.
Very cool. All right, just curious. And how many so right now you have Siamese, Projectile Reptile, and then what was the third? But
Siamese 2 will come out in the spring.
okay.
Or we'll crowdfund in the spring.
Okay. And so, but how many in total are you thinking for the team?
Oh, well, so long as it keeps getting funded, I'm going to keep going. Like I said, I've got about 9 scripts already written. So,
Okay, so 9 characters or 9 stories?
9 stories featuring
Okay.
Trident's New Alliance. Yeah, so this could
Ah.
continue on. Yep.
Hmm.
And I'm long in the tooth, so I got to get this going. I'm no
hear ya.
spring chicken.
No, so
Now
one of
I'm
the
the
things
second
that,
oldest person on this stream.
well, true. Until Mike Miller shows up. He was in
Yeah.
the chat earlier.
I was gonna say, but you're still the biggest boomer, probably. So.
Oh yes, very
Hey,
much so.
sir,
If
hey,
I
whoa, I know
if
we
I
joke
could
about
not use electricity, I would.
you're not taking that crown from me, you sons of anyway. So one of the things that I deal with just personally here on the channel is making sure that I keep up the motivation every day to keep going. And one of the things that I have is just the never say die attitude, right? Is no matter how tired I can be, and no matter, oh, I can put it off till tomorrow, or maybe it's okay. The people will understand if I take a day. And that thought doesn't sit right for me. It's no, the show must go on. You continue, you push through, you drive forward. You seem to have so many irons in the fire right now. I would imagine you have something similar. Do you have a similar feeling, or is it a different thing that just keeps you moving?
It's actually twofold. One, I agree with you. You've got to have the drive in order to build your platform, your audience, a regular set of backers, if you will. You need to keep going. I even hosted my show with COVID. I mean, I was like on death's door. So they're like, okay, so next we're gonna but yeah, the show must go on. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But also too, I think that there is a lot to be said for being out in front of the audience. And, I'm excited to show my book, and I want people to see the passion I have for writing it, for producing it, for publishing it. But I also want them to sort of get a feel for whether or not I'm the kind of person they want to back. And sometimes you might see somebody on a stream and go, well, the book looks fantastic, but I just don't want to support that creator. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that people, when they see me on streams, and for Siamese, for example, I was on 80 different streams to show that book.
Wow.
And what I did was I kept track of all of them and their times and all that. And on my website, you'll find that I have something called CG Guide, which, will list out all of those streams I was on. And I'd like to keep it, it's not just CG, by the way. It's CG adjacent. I don't even care. If you're making a great independent comic and you want to be in this guide, you are welcome to get in touch with me, and I'll put you on there. So it's a work in progress. It's a living document. So whenever somebody sends me their information, I will add them to the book or the guide. And it's on www.dojokuncomics.com. And on that site, you'll see not only my current campaign, upcoming campaigns, but all of my previously published work is available there, currently print to order. What I'd like to do eventually is get them in a print run so that I have control of those and when they get sent out, so that there doesn't have to be a full page ad, like, for example, on the back page or something. I mean, Indie Planet's great. The fact that I can put those out there print to order has been pretty cool to get people's eyes on my books.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping that some of this crowdfunding will allow me to do print runs such that I have direct interaction with the people buying the books. That's kind of the only thing I'm missing by having it print to order. Someone orders it, I don't know who has ordered it. And I'd really like to have like a personal interaction, put a personal note in there or a card of some kind that thanks them for their support. That kind of thing is one thing that I'm missing doing it that way.
Well, and it's also good to build email lists so that you can get a hold of people for future endeavors and things like that.
That's
So-
right. Yep. To let them know when Siamese 2 is getting ready to crowdfund, so that they're
Mhm.
ready and poised to come to whatever show I launch it on, etc.
Yep.
And that's one of the things too that is it's it's so easy in concept, but yet so hard is that building email lists, building other places. It's like, okay, so people will follow you in one place, but it seems to be very hard to get people outside of people who like got your back from the beginning. Um Outside of the people who are just like, I'm here, I got your back, what do you need me to do? And it's like, well, click on the link and go join my gilded. And they're like, cool, I got you, let's go join the gilded. What else do you want me to do? I don't know, hang out with other people on the gilded, right? Like, but like outside of the people who are really excited for what you're doing, getting other people to go and join that email list or join that gilded, or what I'm doing, pushing my locals over there, because my locals is where people can have kind of like the uncensored chats while we're doing this stuff, and they can make fun of me in an uncensored way
It's
that's
really
not
tough.
YouTube friendly. And really, Daniel, really, but you know, do you have a struggle with getting people to go to that other place to support you outside of YouTube, or are you able to get people to go over to those other places, those other platforms, to support you in a larger amount, or is it still tough to get
It's
people to?
it's definitely a tough grind. The marketing hat is a difficult one to wear. As a publisher, I can keep a lot of different plates in the air. I'm very organized. As a writer, I've got whiteboards with sticky notes on it, and I keep everything. Okay, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and these are coming from over there. But the part that's the hardest hat to wear, in my opinion, despite the fact that I'm not shy, I was a disc jockey, I don't have any problem being online or on air. The thing is, wearing that marketing hat, it's difficult to know exactly how to strike that iron. Um, I promote my comics on the platform Indiegogo. I'd really like to go to Kickstarter because they've got a much larger audience, but I can't seem to get any traction over there. I'm just not. I don't know how to play that algorithm like I do with Indiegogo. So it's something I've got to really reach out to some folks and learn. There was a time where I didn't like Kickstarter much because they were allowing fraudulent campaigns to be put up on their site. The one in particular was Vinny Tartamella. He had Shadow of the Kraken on Indiegogo, and someone from Kazakhstan copied his entire crowdfunding campaign and posted it onto Kickstarter as if it was their own. They had about 5 backers, and he was livid about it. The thing is, that's fraud, because it's fraud not only against the creator, Vinny, but also against the 5 people who expected that when it was done, they were going to get something for their backing. Yep. So that fraud brought to my attention, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a fraud examiner. I reached out to Kickstarter and said, you need to take that down. It's fraud. And they said to me, that's not in violation of our terms of service. And I said, how could it not be? I said, well, listen, you need to take it down. As a fraud examiner, I'm obliged to report this to the Federal Trade Commission if you don't take it down. And they said, do what you got to do. I'm like, okay, then. I said what I would do, and I went and did that. I contacted the Federal Trade Commission. Now, I'll be honest, guys. I really expected them to ignore me, because the Federal Trade Commission deals with frauds that are way bigger than 5 people backing a campaign. But it must have been a slow day, or maybe they thought it was low-hanging fruit. But whoever got my message got in touch with Kickstarter, and it was taken down in just a couple hours. So then when I saw that happen a few more times on Kickstarter, I contacted, rather than contact them myself, I contacted, when Aaron Lepresti's Wraith of God was cloned on Kickstarter, I let Shelly know what to do, who to contact. Shelly is his wife. She would contact the Federal Trade Commission on his behalf. And rather than, me trying to be the knight in shining armor all the time, I just let them know what they needed to do. They did it, and it worked.
That's awesome.
Good. Yeah, there's a lot of these sites that are incredibly unscrupulous. Now, I mean, people talk about the political angles and things like that, where it's intentional censorship. But there's a lot of sites, including like Amazon, that, they're just not even necessarily malicious. Sometimes they're just apathetic.
Yes, that's the
about.
word I was thinking, is apathy. That
Yeah.
they're such a huge conglomerate that what they'll basically tell you is we don't have time to
Mhm.
monitor and police all of this.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Yes, Kickstarter is enormous. And they don't just have comic books, obviously. They have so much more. And so does Indiegogo, to be honest with you. They've got so much more than comics. So the thing is, can they police all of that and monitor it all the time? I would argue no, they can't.
No.
But when it's directly brought to their attention, they need to do something about it.
Yeah.
That was my stance. Yeah, I get that you didn't see this. It's just one campaign in a sea of many. But now that we've told you about it, fix it.
Do something.
Yeah, exactly. To
Well,
just tell me.
The thing
I'm
with
sorry.
that is human nature. If you say, like, you see it in general, going to the store and stuff, if someone's standing in your way in an aisle and there's no way for you to get around them, you say, excuse me, they can choose to ignore you. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, there's that. And then that's a whole nother situation. But most people will take the path of least resistance and just turn around and walk away. So
Yes.
that the statement, you do what you got to do, is if you don't push this, then I don't have to do anything.
That's true. Yeah, that was a very lazy
and that
response
was
to me.
laziness on that particular mod or admin's position. That was their choice, was just be lazy, and you called their bluff, so they had to do something about it. That's what's important.
See, the thing is, when I told them that I was obliged, I wasn't kidding. If I don't notify them and I've identified fraud, I could lose my certification. And
Absolutely.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
They were probably like, this guy, he's just making stuff up.
Yeah, probably.
Most people don't realize that. As a former educator, we have what's called the mandatory reporting system, which is if we see any of a specific list of behaviors in children that could be considered abuse, like reactions to abuse or things like that, we have to report it. If something happens to a child in our care that falls under that criteria and we did not report it, we get investigated and can lose our credentials and not be able to work to teach in school districts. Not that I'd want to at this point, but I understand completely mandatory reporting. It's a serious thing, but most people don't get that. Like the layman doesn't understand that mandatory reporting is a big deal.
It's crucial. Yeah.
No, and I think, and I won't go on the tangent that I was about to, because these guys know how I tangent. Yes, I'm back. I'm back.
He's intentionally curbing himself, and you can kind of see it, his eyebrows twitching a little bit. Like he's going to explode.
It's really, really bad. My heart rate just spiked. I'm denying my nature right now because I want to tangent so hard because I've been listening to the conversation off air. I apologize, guys. Like I said, just so the chat knows, guys, my tummy's not feeling so good tonight, so I got to leave once in a while, just so everybody knows, and the chat can make fun of me for my tummy rumbling. But anyway, I digress. But and I think mandatory reporting kind of goes too far in certain instances. And before I tangent off of that, I'll leave that there. But I think that I think going back to the larger issue of these major companies, whether or not it's from the top or it's from the middle or even the bottom level people just monitoring these things, these campaigns that are getting shadow banned and absolutely screwed over, and when attention is brought to it, to the attention of the big wigs, and it's not getting handled, that is something that is, I believe, actionable in a court of law.
I agree. That is intentional at that point. They can't say that they were unaware. They can't say that. I mean, at that point, they're perpetuating it. They are complicit in its occurrence. So, they really can't continue doing that. Now, let's use Aaron Lepresti as an example. I talked about him a few minutes ago. His campaign is making six figures. It's doing, like, I think the last time I saw was $180,000. And someone could easily argue, that's fantastic. What do you mean? Here's the thing. Could it be 250? Could it be 280? Without your shadow ban, who knows?
Right.
So the fact that people can't just find it while doing it, they can't even search for it, but you can't even stumble across it you're hurting his commerce, and that's deceptive and unfair.
Right.
Mhm. Well, and especially when it comes to commerce too. That's one of the although the Commerce Clause is one of the biggest shams of the American government. I won't get into that. It does have some built-in protections for a lot of people out there, and it seems to be violated unnecessarily when it comes to the political culture war that we seem to be in.
Mm.
And it's happening to the point where the three of us here were having a conversation of how to get around it, how to help some of these creators out there, looking into various different things. It was a conversation over the course of a few days, and we found out there are other people out there that are trying to do that. And I think instead of trying to build our own thing, we're kind of just trying to shuffle people into the avenues that exist already.
Which we could probably
you
do a better job of, but
Well,
If we had more time to dedicate to it,
well,
sure.
yeah, which one of us has the time to do that? And that's the other side of it. But I think that obviously seeing the political and the cultural nature around what's happening in the world right now, when it comes to these places getting shadow banned, and then you talk about getting actionable in court, you have to wonder, are the judge and the jury politically or culturally aware of what's going on?
That's a
Most likely,
factor.
yes. Most likely, yes. That's a huge factor. And do you think that the judgment would go in your way? And then on top of that, do you actually have the money to
That's the
fight
biggest
something
factor.
like that? I mean, the
Mhm.
biggest thing is we're talking about crowdfunders. We're talking about people who are trying to raise money to just tell a freaking story.
Yeah.
The construction
Mhm.
worker almost slipped out right there. Ooh, it's getting closer, ladies and gentlemen. But
1 hour
we're
and
talking about
13
people
minutes.
who are, huh?
1 hour and 13 minutes in, and almost happened.
Almost there. But the big thing here is that with the world being the way that it is, and these crowdfunders out there who are crowdfunding regardless of what level they're at, with the exception of maybe guys like Eric July, who just blew the doors off of everybody, but they're crowdfunding
Sanderson.
for just to tell a story, and then they get shadow banned. How in the world are they going to pursue legal action, which is going to cost as much, if not more, than the money that they just raised that they no longer have access to on these against these companies that are shadow banning them?
I saw someone mention it in the chat, Crazy, and that is maybe it's a class action that has to occur.
Mhm.
Even
Well,
those
yeah,
are hard to get
those
together,
are
though.
ridiculously hard, though.
Mhm.
I've actually looked into in the past like what it would take for like class action stuff, and my good lord, I mean, it's insane what it takes to get a class action
Mhm.
off the ground legitimately.
Yeah, I looked for it my last actual job before I started doing my coaching and writing thing full time. I looked into class action because, long story short, I lost my position because of my refusal to get jabbed. So I looked into class actions at that point, and it is very difficult. You have to have X amount of people involved, which may or may not be difficult depending on the situation. But not just that, there are so many minor moving parts to it, and the lawyer actually has to be, that's the other roadblock, is the lawyer has to be confident that they can proceed with the case. Most won't take that sort of thing. It's too risky.
Mhm.
And not just that, you go even further back, it could be that the company is not even aware of it, that it's an employee in charge of a specific facet that is making these decisions without the upper echelon being aware that it's even happening. So then they have to internally investigate, which can take time.
Or
And it's,
you look at the
by that point, there's a, what is the Army statement? Don't ask for permission, or
It's easier
don't
to ask
apologize,
for
ask for
forgiveness than it
permission.
is. Yeah, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people that pull this stuff, what we've seen in what are called the Twitter files, are folks that are willing to operate under that paradigm. They're just going to do it, whether or not they're allowed to do it or not, because they have a certain
Exactly.
level of plausible deniability.
No, and Kikomon for $5 commenting on something I just said a minute ago. I'm sorry. Kikomon for $5. My bad.
Come on.
I gotta say it right. Eric July broke the floodgates open for the Iron Age. Hail. Yes.
That's
Yes.
true.
Well, and he did it on his own site.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
this is something I kind of wanted to get to, is that
With word of mouth for the most part.
well,
Yeah.
yes, that's not something that everybody has access to. But
That's a
let's say
perfect
that you
storm.
start, but let's say that you start. Okay, so we decide that we're going to take issue with these sites, and we're going to do our own thing, and we have our own network and everything else. Well, what happened to him? PayPal kept his money,
Oh yeah.
and
Yep.
tried to sink him as best
Yep.
they could. And you look at these other people. There's now countless examples, but like, you don't own the money that's in your bank. You know what I mean? And so it's like it's basically like, if somebody really wants you to stop, all they have to do is make a few phone calls,
Mhm.
and you don't have access to your money anymore, and that's
Do you
well
remember?
established.
Do you remember the old
And that's
adage?
a
You know,
part of the
possession is
conspiracy
9/10
theorists
of the
will be
law.
played by
Well,
Richard.
no, I mean, that's part of the Patriot Act. It's well established. They can do that
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
any
Yeah.
number of reasons.
Well, that's what. Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on the Patriot Act. Anyway, do you remember the old adage that possession is 9/10 of the law?
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if your money is sitting there, they possess it. Well, that's 9/10 of the law. Well,
Yep.
because technically it's not your money yet because the transaction hasn't been fully completed, and for reasons that we have written in our own thing, we decide that we are right, so we get to hold that money.
Yep.
Like it's gamesmanship at the highest levels, and we're watching people out
And
there
lowest.
who,
I was going to say,
well, yes, yeah, I meant the highest levels of wealth and like
Yeah, I'm just
monetary.
pointing out that it's not just them scammers on
Yeah.
the low side, and they're just as prevalent. There's sharks in every direction.
mhm.
Oh God, yeah. Absolutely.
Job security for me.
Yeah, there you go, good sir. There you go. No, and that's and it's just absolutely insane to see some people out there and the fantastic things that they're trying to do, and they can't get off the ground. And and I guess the good and bad thing about being a small creator whose name isn't on the radar is your beliefs aren't necessarily on the radar either. And thusly, you kind of get to work and to build the niche behind you. If you have voices out there willing to shout you out, which, by the way, that's me. I'll shout you out.
Why do you
What I
think I'm
do.
horrible at chilling myself?
Because you suck, but we're not going to get
No,
into
you're
that.
going to be
Anyways.
the target. I'm
Uh-huh.
working. You're the target. I'm working.
Right, you know
There
what?
you
If I would be honored to be the target for a bunch of these people, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen me go off on the government stuff on my Sunday shows, but I went off on some communists this last week. It was good. And then somebody sent me a super chat because I made the joke about if people would super chat me, I'll just do like a rage rant on like something. And I think the topic last week was thought bots. So off the top of my head, I had to come up and just go into a full like blind rage and just rage about thought bots. It was ridiculous. So, but
Calvin got brought up.
did he
I
get
missed
brought up
that
in
one.
that? He might have.
I'm just messing around.
No, he
don't
might
listen
have
to
though. That's not even a lie. But no. But again, little segues. Sorry, my brain. It's that's what I like to call the bunny trails. If you've ever seen a bunny, like a real life bunny, not those cartoon ass ones, but I mean like the ones that you hit on like country roads. Anyway. That's
Tangent
dark,
man.
right? Dark. I know. I'm a country kid, guys. But if you ever watch a rabbit, they'll just be going in one direction, then all of a sudden they go poof, and then they just totally change directions for no reason at all. Nothing's chasing them. They're just that's what rabbits do, and so that's what I like to call the bunny trails. But it's crazy to see the level that some of these companies and people and potentially governments are willing to go to silence anything that doesn't go along with the narrative. And I think that I think all of us here on the panel potentially feel that way. I won't speak for everybody. I'll speak for myself for sure. Uh, but I would guess that there are similar feelings on that one because we all gathered around a very similar movement.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is I mean, outside of building our own country and making our own rules, they're starting to narrow the pathways that we can take, and it's getting
No.
harder. No,
Well,
Oh,
I do think it's getting
okay.
harder. So I listen to Michael Malice from time to time, and his attitude is that the more desperation and overt action you see from, what he calls the cathedral, which is sort of like
Mhm.
it's the what would I
It's an
forget what he
Eric
describes
July
it as,
term.
but like
Yeah,
kind of
it's
like
a
the scope of acceptable thought, the people who are
Mhm.
in charge of the scope of acceptable thought in public discourse.
The
Like the more
doctrine.
overt actions you see from them, the worse it is for them, because their best, like their power is primarily in not being noticed.
Right.
So,
The thing you
you
should
know,
be afraid of is the thing you can't see coming.
yeah, exactly. And so the thing is that I still think that all these institutions have a lot of power and everything else, but you look at the overt moves that are being made, whether it be with library, like if library wasn't a threat, somebody would have just bought it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And um, run it into the ground. And you've seen that in other cases. I have a decent amount of exposure into the crypto world, and there's plenty of examples where people have just done that. And um, it's pretty much the antithesis of the principles of the movement, but there's so many people just looking to make money, and don't understand what they're doing. And so that's why I think that my big thing is that you have to build the culture, and that's why so much money is poured into controlling culture. And um, they're willing to deploy all these other measures to maintain control of it, which is obviously why I'm here doing what I'm doing, because I think it's the most important thing I can do right now. So to kind of wrap up that tangent of my own, um, and
Not half
throw it
as
back
bad
to our
as mine.
guest, though, I mean,
I talked about raw milk and like some military crap that I alluded to last week.
well,
I had to
I
rewatch that stream to clip it, dude. That was bad. So
yeah.
good on you. That was a good tangent, good sir. I'm trying to congratulate you. Good tangent.
Well,
Good
thank
tangent.
you. Yeah, your tangents are a little bit more
Non
what should I
sequitur.
say?
Insane.
There you
Yeah,
go.
non
Insane.
sequitur. But I just rant about like
Boy, that's the
crypto and
term.
the global elites, and
It's much
obviously the
nicer
flat
than
earth and the wizard
insane,
people,
Royce.
But uh, the
Fucking Mike's
what I was
still
going to
down
ask
there.
Dojo down there is like, when you got into this, were there any kind of cultural reasons, or was it purely because you had stories to tell that you weren't going to be able to do any other way?
Well, I started basically, I was in Facebook at the time. I hadn't really learned much about Twitter or YouTube at all. And I was
Mhm.
posting a lot of my characters just to see what people thought. And somebody who belonged to the movement that Crazy was talking about a little while ago said to me, those are great characters, but you really ought to get them published before you put them out there on Facebook. And I said, they are published. I've got comic books that I published, several years ago. He's like, "Oh, dude, you've got to join this movement then." And he gave me several YouTube sites to go watch. And as I watched them, I was like, "Yeah, exactly." I agreed with 100% of what was being said. And basically, the stories I want to tell, and this is getting to answer your question, the stories I want to tell are stories without an agenda. I just want escapism, entertainment, and I was so on board with that. I said, "Yeah, this is me. This is my people right here." So, I've made. It's funny. Years ago, when my sons told me that they had friends online, I kind of poo-pooed that. Like, yeah, okay, right. They're not really friends if they're just online. Well, shame on me for having that stance, and I did apologize to him. I'll be honest. I've made some great friends who are in. Brazil, Australia, Italy, and they can
I
only
had
be
the same
online
thought.
friends. and they
I had
are
the same thought. Yeah.
they are truly good friends. So the the movement that I decided to become a part of has made a drastic improvement in my world of publishing comics.
Well, awesome. I'm glad to hear that because I think, I lean towards kind of more political and I don't know. I take sort of an analytical side to things because I came at it from more political directions.
Okay.
But I recognize the importance of culture, and I love like I just have basically stopped consuming most Western media of any kind for quite a while, and um, I realized that that was kind of like a death sentence for a lot of the other things that I believed in. And it's so nice to see like stuff being made that is just, it doesn't have the message. Like I think everything has a little bit of um,
A
worldview and
message.
framing and things like that. But it's like so much of what exists today. It's like they're like, "What's the message?" Oh, here you go. Here's the message, and then they're like, "You're making a comic, or you're making a movie, or you're making do what?" Oh yeah, I guess we better do all those other things too. But they start with the message, and then they just sort of slather whatever you know. Uh, what would you call it? Like a whatever skinned corpse that they have of skin
Um,
suit from your
th-
favorite
Yeah,
uh,
skin suit
this
is
is
a big
franchise,
not
and
one.
a
they drape that
super
over it
chat.
and say, "Look, you should be happy."
This is not a super chat, but Kikomon. Uh, this is awesome. I met my beautiful wife online through pen pals. Happily married for 9 years and an additional 4 years of online correspondence.
You know,
There you go.
I'll tell you, I'll go
Respect.
along with that. Facebook rocks because when I was in Facebook, yes, I'm old, I get it, but
I'm still on Facebook, dude.
I
I
me
can't
too.
say what I think of Facebook on this show because of YouTube.
So I dated my wife in high school in 10th grade. We lost touch for a very long time, decades even. Both got married twice, divorced twice, and got back together on Facebook. And now we've been engaged for 11 years and, under the same roof. And, that started out online. And I wasn't actually looking for a spouse. I was just reconnecting with a whole bunch of high school buddies. And we hit it off again. So I thought that's pretty cool. Again, an online thing. So um, and I will never tell my sons that that's not real again.
Mm.
But to go back to your thing about the politics, Iron Age, or Richard, sorry. The thing is, we,
It's whatever.
people will tell you, hey, you can't say that there's no politics in comics. Comics have had politics for decades after decades. Yes, if you look at the X-Men of the Claremont era and before that, there were definitely overtones, intentional overtones of Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King Jr. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That was there on purpose. Were they
Mhm.
teaching us something? Yes, they were teaching us tolerance, acceptance,
Yep.
diversity. But they weren't shoving it down our throats. They were telling stories, and we were learning those things based on the behavior of the characters, not because the characters had a full page monologue telling us what we're supposed to believe.
Right. hmm
Well,
That's
and
the
they were
main differential.
Comics
and
were
I also think it
parables
was
back
more
then.
organic.
Mhm.
Like it was
Yes.
organic actions for them to be taking.
Yeah,
It's like
this is the modern day parable.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, but sure, when I bring up parables, you guys disagree.
No,
because
that
you're
was about
wrong.
a technicality about parables, not about
Had I wandered away for that one, I don't remember him bringing it.
I don't remember either. I just remember.
Oh no, I have it clipped. I have it
Uh-oh.
clipped.
Uh-oh.
You guys suck.
He has the evidence.
I do. I'm
Foiled
gathering
again.
evidence. I'm gathering evidence on all of you guys for
I
don't
believe
know,
it.
a jump. I think I think my inevitable goal is for like one of the milestone episodes, like episode 50. I'm just gonna super clip all of the dumb things that are said on this show, and we're just gonna have an episode.
Oh,
of that.
great.
We'll just have a panel of
It's gonna be
people. just
30
like,
minutes of Royce going off on tangents, 30 minutes of me staring at the camera and raising my eyebrow, and then 30 minutes of Richard just staring with
Talking
that
about the flat Earth
endless
and
end
the
look on his
globalists
face.
and the lizard
No,
people.
the globalists are a thing. That flat Earth shit, though. Damn it! There it is. There's the construction worker in me. Oh, it slipped. It slipped. Yeah, no. The flat Earth
Iron
thing.
Age
that's bunk,
conspiracy
but-
theories.
Actually,
I
that's a good
know.
point. How can we have the flat Earth and globalists? I got to pick one.
That's right.
So,
You can't search the globe for people who believe in flat Earth.
yeah, so I'm actually I oppose the circlists. Yeah, the discists.
Oh no, we're not entertaining that any further. Oh my
Oh, so
god.
the flat Earth isn't a rectangle. It's
Oh dear.
That was a nice Freudian slip. Well said.
Oh dear.
The flat
1
Earth
hour
isn't
and
erect.
30 minutes
Well,
exactly. The show.
Sir, if it's not
goes
erect,
right down
where
the
do
drain.
mountains come from?
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, good God.
I'd like to point out as a total side note that Richard and I's swords have connected.
Yeah, I've got the sword now. I went up to my folks' place over Thanksgiving and I was like,
Guys,
yes, I remember this. I had a ton of these in high school.
On my
Don't touch
screen, they're
tips on
following the
stream.
same tangent. Your sword ends at the bottom of your screen. Mine begins at the top of mine, and they're in the same line.
I like what Horizon Talker said. I am now a believer in erectile Earth.
Yeah, me too. It's not. I don't believe in flat Earth anymore. I've been converted. It's more of like a long shaft.
It's the new hashtag,
We're going into a
erectile
black
Earth.
hole.
It's only
Oh,
when
no.
excited, though.
Yeah,
Right.
Little
Well,
physics
that's
joke
what
for ya.
earthquakes are.
that's what global warming is. Obviously.
Oh God.
Yep.
Oh no.
As I said,
This-
little
Okay,
physics
there
joke for
are
ya.
so many euphemisms that I just avoided in my head right now. It's boy, that conversation got way too easy really fast.
I know this is
Call it
talking
the
about tangents.
innuendo
Here we go.
hour.
Oh goodness Lord. We made it there a lot early. Dojo, you bring out the worst in us. I'm just letting you with the worst in us earlier than others. I'll say
No, this is about average for us.
I'm good at that.
The hour and a half mark is when it usually falls off the rails.
that. What's up?
The hour and a half mark is usually when it falls off the rails. Ask Mike.
It is. Yeah. Hey, Mike, is the hour and a half mark usually when it falls off the rails?
He's gonna
I
be
don't,
like,
I don't even know
no,
if he's still here. He
5
might be
minutes.
here. He might not. I don't know. He pops in once in a while to make fun of me. That's where he's
Yep.
at. So, no.
So crazy.
We covered a lot in a short time. That was.
Ooh,
That
Dojo
was-
has a question.
Are,
Oh,
are,
no.
are we done at an hour and a half, or can we pull up the
No.
campaign?
No, we.
Oh yeah, I was
you
gonna
wanna
say
go
Pull
I
up the
want to get into the
campaign.
campaign.
Let's do it.
Share what you want to. Present it down below. Good sir, this is your show. I mean, technically, it's my show, and these guys' show. But like, you're
Don't
here
you
too.
forget
Never
it,
his
but-
show.
It's
I
really
will.
not.
I will happily.
Actually,
take over.
I will say this: if it's anybody's show, it's the chat show because of the amount of absolute shenanigans that happen in the chat. Which
That's
I need
right.
to let everybody know. Kikomon is sharing so many jokes over in locals. Literally, I'm going to be reading jokes from him for a while once we go to the super chat.
And more
section.
puns.
A lot more. Oh, a lot more. And some of them are dirty. So it's just some. But yeah, Kikomon's over in the locals chat. Kikomon's sharing all the stuff in the locals chat that we like. He's pretty sure they'll ban him for on YouTube. So, but that's what
Straight
my
up.
locals chat's for. If you guys want to go say some stuff that's you might think that hey maybe I can't say this over here. Maybe it's not politically correct to say it over here on YouTube. Yeah, go over here. Over here. It's.
I may
locals,
have to
but-
bring it up in the background for the next show, just so I can say
Yeah.
what I need to say about Facebook.
There you go. Oh God, Swift Sword Rush over. He leaves the chat. He goes, erectile Earth sometimes makes way for a flaccid Earth.
Gosh.
Instead of flat, it's flaccid.
Yeah.
You see what James said? James
How's
Craig
your
says,
conspiracy now?
"Did you not tell Dojo this is a 3-hour affair?"
Yeah.
So I was asking if we were done at an hour and a half.
No, yeah, no. Well, yeah. Usually we've got 11 o'clock. Sometimes it depending on life and
As
and
the
stuff
guest,
and
you get
things.
to escape whenever you want. The rest of us have to sit here and just,
I see.
stay on camera for 3 hours.
All right. So is it all right if I start with the trailer?
Do
Go
it.
for it.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Do it, he says.
Mhm.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you didn't
Sound?
share with
The
sound.
Cactus Kid.
Oh, wait, there it
Infamous
is. No.
gunslinger Desmond Gibbons, better known across the Wild West as the Cactus Kid, comes to the sleepy town of Clarkson. Trouble finds him in the unlikeliest of sources, the sheriff. After their conflict, the Cactus Kid finds himself inexplicably wearing the badge of a lawman. Later, while on the trail of a serial killer, he and his deputy run afoul of a powerful druid, and the events that lead to the Cactus Kid's transformation into the hulking, four-armed projectile reptile are even more than the druid bargained for. From the Wild West to current-day Los Angeles, where he meets superheroes Black Eagle and Red Hawk, and forms an uneasy alliance with the stunning but deadly Kitty Hawk. Join the projectile reptile on a journey of gunslinging druidic magic, superheroes, and artifacts. Projectile Reptile from Dojo Kun Comics, only on Indiegogo. Are you ready for the truly Wild West?
Very nice.
Thank you.
One of these days, we'll get an applause button.
There's
I'm
none.
Until
working
then,
on getting
Richard
a
and I are
Gary
just
button,
gonna be it.
okay? I'm working on it.
Richard and I'll just fill in.
Cool.
Yeah. No, and actually I'm going to work on that. A friend of mine, for Christmas, he called me and he's like, "Hey, I just want to make sure that I'm getting you the right thing for Christmas. So I'm getting you this thing, and it's actually a new soundboard, which will hopefully be
Wow.
able to handle all of the
Very nice.
the thingies that I needed to." Well, he also happens to work at a music store where he gets like really big discounts, so he was able to buy this thing for like 60% of the normal price because
Right
he
on.
gets it for like cost plus a little. So he's just like, "Yeah,
Okay.
hey, I wanted to surprise you, but I wanted to make sure that this is gonna work. Is this gonna work, you dick?" Yeah, it's gonna work. Why wouldn't it work? Okay, that's what I'm getting you for Christmas. Thank you. He goes, "Yeah." But yeah, so no,
So
I'm getting you a
I-
soundboard, and I'll have a Gary button where I can hit a button and then the applause goes off, and I'll have another
fun when
button
we
that'll
do
play
it.
porn sounds. It'll be great. It'll be Iron Age Nights will be made anew.
I'm afraid now.
I'm going to go to chat real quick, and I was going to say, so are we allowed to share the spoiler that Projectile Reptile actually takes place on the erectile Earth?
Shh.
I need
Spoiler.
That's amazing.
Spoiler.
and and the whole goal of Projectile Reptile is as the projectile Earth starts to get flaccid, we actually have to make the flaccid Earth erect again. And so
And thus Kitty Hawk is in the book, right?
There you go.
There's an explosion at the end. It's not for children. It's fine. What the hell happened to this stream?
I don't know. I'm going to try and get it back
I
on
think
track
this
here.
is why we start as late as we do. To
I
be
know,
totally
right?
honest with you.
We need
Yes.
to have like a send your kids to bed sign if there's anybody who's unwise enough to actually let their children listen to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, children.
But I was curious. So
by the way, thanks, Richard. I appreciate it because my kids come down. Dad, we loved your show tonight. Why are you watching Daddy's show? No, I have told you
bad
no.
parents like Royce, like I said.
Mhm.
But
Called out.
yeah, as far as the campaign goes, do you do the art? Are you doing the story? Do you do the storyboarding? You said you had colorists and everybody else working for you. Can you tell us a little bit about the team?
Yeah, actually, let me just race right down there to the team, and I can show you who's on the team. Come on. There's a lot on this campaign. Here we go. Okay, so I'm the writer of the campaign, of the books, and the artist is Caius. Caius is a Brazilian. I don't know if there's something in the water down there, but there's a lot of great art coming out of Brazil. My colorist is Chris Leithwood. From the other direction, he's from Canada. My letterer is the hardest working letterer in comic books, Eric Weathers. And I heeded the advice of the backers and the chat and got an editor this time. And it was a good thing that I did. He actually pointed out a few things that truly improved the book. One thing was the voice of the characters. And what I mean by that is he noticed that in some of the book, Cactus Kid was kind of folksy, down home, spoke like with a drawl kind of thing. And then later, he was very articulate. And he said, either one of those is fine, but pick one.
Yeah, pick one.
Their character has to have a consistent voice throughout
What a
the book.
great catch.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
And
something a professional editor proofer will look for. It's something that I do when I do it.
That's right.
That's I never even thought about that.
Yep.
Because I always think like just being a layman, an editor's going to look for grammatical errors, spelling errors, and things of that nature, and possibly maybe even like egregious like conversational like tonal errors, like if you're having a dialogue and this just the tone just doesn't fit with the dialogue you're using. Never even thought about consistency of dialogue of the character, which totally makes sense. I just I never, but I guess
editing.
Yeah, and
so perhaps the reason that didn't ever cross your mind is it was done properly in the books you've read.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that is if it wasn't done properly, it would take you out of the story.
You would notice.
Like the Boxcar Children. It was done well in the Boxcar, and I shill that book, although I have no connection to it.
Bryce's favorite book series.
Okay.
When I was a kid, it was. Dojo, are you familiar with the Boxcar Children?
I'm not.
He's got to bring it up every episode.
It's one of those things, huh?
And I do because and I don't remember when the Boxcar Children, I believe, started in what, the 50s? Was it the 50s?
Late 40s, early 50s, yeah.
Yeah, late 40s, early 50s. And
don't ask me to repeat the woman's name, I forget now.
No, but it predates the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew.
Yes.
And in fact, the way that it's written, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys were in just the way that it is, the mystery stories. Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys were just kind of knockoffs of the Boxcar Children. And I don't go there with me. Stop.
Hey, I've listened to the first set of first set of 4 books that from your recommendation. So I have a little bit of authority on it now, and it's the Boxcar Children's concept is very similar to Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, but the focus is different. The Boxcar Children's story focus was on the unit of children. The mysteries were kind of a subset, whereas the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys series, the mystery was the focus and the character development was the subset.
All right, fine. I go back on my point. But anyway, what my original point was when it comes to dialogue and storytelling, the way that characters talk from beginning to the end of the book, there can be a natural progression of how a character speaks from the beginning of a book to the end of the book.
Yep.
And I am wondering, how far can that progression go before it seems unnatural for the writers in the room? You start the character, he talks like this. By the end of the book, he talks like this. How far is too far?
I don't think there is too far. I think that if the progression makes sense and is over an appropriate length of time, if the appropriate length of time passes, it doesn't have to take you time to get there, but if time passes in the story and they went from uneducated to having learned many things over the course of years, and they then maybe learn some respect, or they learn some vocabulary, or they learn scientific knowledge, and now they sound smarter, I don't think there is any too far. I think that so long as it makes sense, they can continue to progress.
I agree.
The Count of Monte Cristo is a great example of that. The Count of Monte Cristo, where you have Edmond Dantes, who is quite ignorant, can't even read. And it's not until he is unjustly thrown into prison where he meets an old priest who teaches him mathematics, economics, and writing, that he and I mean he was in the prison for 8 or 9 years. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but Edmond Dantes goes through a traumatic experience, learns how to read, and speaks as a very, very different person. I mean, relatively early on in the story, in the book anyway. In the movie, it's later on.
In
But
order to infiltrate polite society, he learns how to articulate himself like them, which is also a pretty common trope in a lot of fiction stories. But it's an important one for that particular story. I agree.
yeah,
Another thing to think about is just because one of the characters is folksy and speaks with a southern accent doesn't mean everybody else in the town needs to. Somebody else may be articulate right from the very start and stay articulate through the story. So it's important that not all of the characters need the same voice, but your character needs to have a consistent voice, or like you mentioned, Crazy, a progressing one. And
Each major character should have their own voice, and it needs to be
yes,
consistent in
right.
whatever progression you have as far as their story arc is concerned.
And another thing that this editor, Steve in particular, also pointed out was a continuity, and not continuity error, but a continuity gap. And what I mean by that is there was a scene that happens, and then a scene over here, and he's like, I don't know how we got from one to the other. And he said, I
No
think what's
transition.
happening here, he pointed out what he thought was happening was the transition was happening here.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what was going on in the background, but it was abrupt for the reader.
Yeah, the reader wouldn't see it.
Right, exactly. So even just maybe a 1 or 2 page transition there helped that flow much better. So
Absolutely.
yes.
is that
So
hard
it
to
was,
recognize as a writer, like writing something and like you kind of know all the back stuff and not realize that you're you're kind of writing with knowledge that the reader doesn't have? Is that hard to avoid as a writer?
it's hard to avoid. It can be done, obviously, but yeah, it's hard to avoid that because I've got, like I told you earlier, I've got 9 scripts planned out. So if I suddenly bring in something that's actually in the 7th one, it would be like, not only is that abrupt, but who is that? Like, like where did that person come from? It's like you got to be careful not to draw in elements that you haven't introduced yet.
Right. Easy way to explain it would be, imagine that you have an outline of baking cookies, and you have step-by-step instructions. You know exactly what you're supposed to do afterwards, but you're communicating to somebody else who's not looking at the cookbook, and you forget to tell them to add sugar.
Right.
Okay, because you maybe start. Well, I guess the
You know
writer's
what
version.
all the steps are going to be, but if you don't tell the
But you
other
start
person in
talking
the
about the
room,
flavor of the cookie. You start to say, oh, well, add this, and oh, by the way, guys, once you get done with the rest of the steps, like it's going to be really good. It's going to be chocolatey and flavory and blah, blah, blah. And you kind of forget to give the rest of the steps. Is that kind of an accurate? Okay.
That's an analogy of it. Sure.
yeah, that's what no transition is.
That's words that fits somewhat kind of in and around what we were talking about. Sure. That's how I do on this show. That's how I do.
All right. So what I'd like to do now is show you the campaign itself, the covers that are available, and a couple of the other features. So this here is the main cover. It's by Caius, the interior artist. I wanted to make sure that he did one of the covers. And this is an homage to an Iron Man cover. You may remember where there was a split cover with a scene from the past where he had his gray armor and then the golden red armor.
I was going
on
to
the
mention
right.
that, yeah.
Yep. This one
I've
here.
seen that done quite a few times, and I've always loved that style, that split right down the middle.
What it does is it shows you several of the scenes. It gives you the opportunity to show a couple of different things that happen inside the book. This one here is Renzo Rodriguez. Oh, we've got another Corner heard from. She wants to play now, but it's not time for that.
I'm surprised my bloodhound hasn't start barking. Usually she's a star of the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we've got a Newfoundland poodle mix. So
I love Newfies.
She loves the water.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, Newfies, and we
Oh, she heard me say that. She's coming over. She's like, let's
Oh, yeah.
go.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, our puppy that we have. We have 2 older dogs and two younger dogs, and there's reasons why we have so many dogs and why we got the puppies when we did, because the older dogs are getting older. But anyway, our youngest puppy is Great Pyrenees and Shepherd mix.
Ooh,
So
another big dog.
yeah. Oh, I love my big dogs. Big dogs are the best alarm system you can have in the house.
Right. Very deterrent.
Oh yes.
This cover is by Renzo Rodriguez, and this one has been called, and I like it, it's the ass grab cover.
Oh,
And-
and I am actually on the website now because it's a little small on my screen. I see why it's called that.
And we're bringing the gingers back too. Not only does she have the red, but she's got the freckles here and here.
Oh, good Lord,
Nice.
sir.
It's all about the details.
Well,
third-
you
Yeah,
know what?
exactly.
Sorry.
We're almost 2 hours into the show. We're there. Actually, that was one of the things I was just like, boy, there's some art on his page that I don't know. Should I show it on the stream tonight? Now I'm just kind of like, yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's go for it.
It's borderline, but it's still within terms of service.
But again,
it's
it goes
tasteful.
into and actually again, and I referenced it earlier, his conversation he had, the difference between having sexy characters in comics and
Mhm.
sexualized characters in comics.
Yep.
Yes.
And one of the things, and if I may segue really quickly to what you talked about on, is it in Incendiary or
right.
Yep.
yeah, those weeks back, just because we had to go past the ass grab cover, which fantastic cover by the way, chef's kiss. But oh, there's the poppers. But the difference between one of the things you brought up is that somewhere in the, I believe you said the 90s, they went from doing drawing the characters in a way that was just sexy and eye-catching to literally drawing the characters from like a pornography camera standpoint.
I blame Rob Liefeld.
Huh?
I blame Rob Liefeld.
Dojo, you got a comment on that one?
Liefeld,
Rob Liefeld, not Liefeld, Liefeld.
Whatever.
Yes.
I've had 3 glasses.
Liefeld. I was like, why does that name? No, it's Rob Liefeld. Yeah, yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
I've had 3 glasses of scotch.
I don't know that I blame him. I think he participated in that, but
I'm just saying he's where the quote unquote swimsuit comics started.
well, perhaps. But Marvel had swimsuit issues in the '80s, so
That's a good point.
But again, the angles were not extreme to the point to show off the sexualization of the characters. The angles were very different. They were to show off the sexiness of a character, but not the sexualization of a character.
it's a fine line. It's a very fine distinction, but yes, there is one.
I just remember noticing the female characters turning their butt toward the panel more often when he was involved in those comics.
Okay, well,
And
I mean, some of that might have also been direction, you know.
Well, and it could have been, but like I said, and the reason that I bring it up is one, it's a conversation that I thought was hugely fascinating on your channel.
thank you.
And two, I bring it up because obviously you definitely have some artwork in what you're doing that people look at and they go, oh wow, those are some good looking ladies. Those are, and when you get into the distinction between, sexy and sexual in what you're writing and drawing that fine line, where is that fine line? What do you, as the person creating your comic books, where is that fine line for you?
I'd have to say that the most that you'll see is innuendo. anything that is sexual will be implied. And that's not to say I'm a prude by any standard. If you look at Siamese, there's actually one panel, but there's actually a panel of nudity. And that's because it follows something that was off panel and implied to have already happened.
Right.
So you're either old enough and savvy enough to know what I mean, or you're not, and then it's not offensive to you because you don't know what I mean.
Get it.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. No,
You have to be of the right mind to draw that inference. Otherwise, you will miss it.
No, and like I said, and I bring it up because I have a bad habit of having people on this channel and being like, oh, there's a conversation that I want to have with this person from something they said on their channel.
That's not a bad habit. I think that's a nice tie-in.
Yeah, it is when you talk about the Legend of Korra for 45 minutes.
Well,
anyway.
It depends on how long you take it. Yes.
I didn't mean for that conversation to go that long, but I have a bad habit for actually, watching the channels of the guests that I have on. And I had to bring that up because I really feel that it's important to talk about things like that, because there are a lot of people right now on through Twitter that are reaching out to, I'm sure, I know I'm getting reached out to. I'm not sure how often Richard is getting reached out to, probably more often than myself. And Daniel, I have no idea about your workload, but there are people reaching out quite a bit. And I think these authors are all in a similar mindset that we're in. And a lot of the Rob Rhymes, the author of Dan the Destructor here, boy, have you seen some of the artwork he's been posting on Twitter lately? And
borderline Boris Vallejo stuff.
Oh my good Lord. But I look at it and literally you scroll down and you see some of this stuff, and it's like Viking style women. And they're like, they've got a hat on and like a sash around the waist and nothing else. And by the way, the sash around the waist doesn't even cover the naughty stuff either, but it's not sexual. It's the women are drawn in a sexy way. There is nudity there. And I scroll past, I look at that and it's because of the conversation
positions. That's true.
Well, exactly. And that's what made me really really think about the difference of what's the difference between, a sexy battle scene, these, because Rob will do that. He'll put up naked dudes up there doing that stuff too. Like Rob's not like it's the Viking, it's the Conans, it's pulp, that's what he likes to do. But it's what I appreciated so much about that conversation is it does draw a line in the sand. It's the difference between something that's sexy and essentially something that's pornographic. Yeah. And that can be positions, how it's drawn, angles of things, innuendo, inferences. There's a lot
I was going to say,
go into that.
In addition to that, the words on the page might take a pose that is, I'll say, not innocent, but not sexual. It'll take, the words on the page could change the tone dramatically. So it's a combination of the image and the words. To tie it back to, you were talking about Liefeld earlier, the person who did this cover used to do a lot of Liefeld's inks. This cover here is by Shelby Robertson. Shelby is one of those that can draw the sexy ladies and chooses to keep on this side of that line.
You can tell by the bar placement on the railing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, no, absolutely. But that's not a lie though, is it's there's one thing about admiring the feminine form, and then there's another thing about admiring the feminine form.
Objectifying it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems that in the the modern day, the want to be more risque, as it were. Well, risque is I mean, I don't even think risque exists anymore. It's just
No.
Yeah, I
gone
was gonna say.
nowadays. It's there. There's no.
Risque
I
would
find it.
almost be welcome at this point.
Oh, I know. Well, it's so funny because I was like, so I'll scroll through like the Google, whatever the Google news feed is, to try to find stories to cover throughout the day, and it's like, oh, this almost see-through dress that this starlet wore on the red carpet, and I'm like, who cares? Insta thoughts are out there with the same level of plastic surgery that these Hollywood starlets are at, but they're fully naked online. Like,
Yep.
why would you care about some see-through dress that a Hollywood starlet's wearing versus your favorite Insta thought that you can pay, 99 cents to do whatever you want? Like why would you care? Like, risque is just destroyed now. And it's just insane. And again, it's why I thought this conversation was important. And obviously when you brought up that cover, I was like, this would be a fun conversation to have. And this is something that I think is important to have, especially for any of the
It
artists
is.
down in the chat who are listening. The difference between, because I know there are people in the chat right now making their own stories. I can see like 5 of them just right now. But I think that having conversations like these for people who are like, okay, I want to do the scene in the book, but I don't want it to come across this way. How do I do that? And this is where I think the substance of our show can potentially live, is talking about some of the things that a lot of writers or what a lot of audience members may not think about. And that is the difference between what you talked about on your show, Dojo. And that's why I brought this up.
Which do you have a link to that episode? You might drop it in.
Yeah, no,
that'd be good.
absolutely.
Chat, that'd be good.
I can, yeah, it's only a couple live streams back.
I kind of lightly brushed on it with Legacy Heroes 1 with the female character Amy, who goes from being a supervillain called Shriek to a superhero called Crescendo. In the beginning, her introductory chapter, she, in order to fit in with the rabble-rousing gang, she dresses up in tight leather pants and, does her makeup in a way that she's not normally going to do. She's acting a role to fit in, but she's not comfortable with looking the way that she does. She's not comfortable with the style of dress because of her personal background. And then later in the book, not to spoil anything, but when they go through the process of creating their hero costumes, she can't figure out what she wants to do because she doesn't know what kind of hero she wants to be. So she just settles on this silver bodysuit, but it's a bodysuit. It's skin tight. So, and she's very uncomfortable with the idea of walking around essentially, all of her curves out there for everyone to look at. She's basically not comfortable with that.
Oh, how prudish of her. Yeah.
So she goes overboard and puts this big, thick black coat on and a pair of boys' shorts over top of the bodysuit in order to cover as much of herself as she possibly can. I wanted to do that as a response to the boob window, the full cat suit, the teeny tiny shorts and halter top that you see superhero women often in. I wanted to do that in response to it because I'd always wondered about that one. Like, how often do these girls get into their superhero costumes and go, why am I wearing this shit? What purpose does it serve? And sometimes you can see, it's functional, but later, dude. But
really quickly, all right, I'm hopping off to go to the to do comic things. Dropped a sneak peek to the Underworld Dawn Christmas poster in the Gilded Dojo Kun comics. It was a pleasure seeing you on the stream. Come again.
Definitely.
Royce, Richard, Daniel, always good to spend time with you and everyone in the chat as well. Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
Calvin.
Good. All right, now that he's gone, I can ban his ass.
But yeah, that was the whole idea. And then by the end of the book, she's kept the coat, but gone with a little longer than knee length skirt instead of the boy shorts. So it's more of a transition from being super uncomfortable with the idea of the superhero costume being so revealing to embracing a modest feminine look as best she can with what she has to work with at the time. And I'm going to address that in LOH2 with the progression of the character as well. So it was on my mind well before this conversation even came up, because I wrote that book like 6 months ago.
You know, one of the shows that I thought handled it incredibly well, I've been getting more into anime in the last like 6 months or so, just because, well, what Richard said earlier, Western media is just a trash pit fire right now. But My Hero Academia, yeah, right. My Hero Academia actually handled it in an interesting way, is because you look at some of these female characters and you're just like, wow, really?
Mhm.
And My Hero Academia addressed it in an interesting way, is that in their universe, in the world that they set up, and obviously the artists are just like, nope, we're just going to draw sexy looking girls for sexy looking girls to be on screen, and that's what they're doing. But the reasoning behind it and why they wrote it into the story is they're like, well, we live in a world with powered people, and like 80% of the population has powers, and they have all different kinds of powers. Well, some of those people, their powers is through their skin itself, right? And especially with, like, you know, the ladies, in order to use their powers, they have to have as much of their skin exposed as they possibly can in order to use their powers. One of the ones in the show, she her power has something to do with like poisons and pheromones that she can release in a, you know, in like a smoke or something
Midnight.
from her skin. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you know, and they obviously had a code where like, oh, these women were not dressing well enough, and so the government came out and so, no, ladies, you got to cover up a little more. But that was something that was handled in an interesting fashion, because like, oh, here we go, it's just more, you know, big titty women on screen. And then when they got into the explanation of it, and we're like, you know, some of us have powers that's through our skin. How do we use our powers if our skin is covered up? And I'm like, that's actually a well thought out point. And I think that things like that in stories can work.
There was an episode that really just brought it right out and put it right in front of your face. And I don't remember exactly what scenario it was in, but I know it had involved the character Ojiro, and I think her name is Harakure, the Invisible Girl, where she explains to Ojiro that she's literally naked in order to be invisible. And he's like terrified because he's a traditional guy, and he's like, there's a naked girl next to me. I know I can't see her, but just the thought of it is super uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, you know, and there's still some modesty left in Japan, and the way that they write their stories, and modesty that I think used to be here and rapidly disappeared, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, I feel like the modesty in our storytelling was a lot larger 5 to 10 years ago than it is now.
Yeah, probably so.
I would say 10 to 15 years ago. I'd say the decline started a lot earlier than we really think about.
You know, you're probably not wrong. Dojo, what do you got to say? We've kind of dominated the show. I apologize.
I think it has been longer. I think that maybe at the turn of the century, even things started changing.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
With modern media, both, you know, comics, movies, and even to a certain extent, some cartoons started going more toward adult themes.
Yep.
A lot of the nighttime cartoons are meant for adults. So,
but kids were getting to watch them.
You know, I mean, but you know, but things like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which were funny and adult humor, but still probably something that I would consider safe for my kids to watch, don't exist anymore. The late night adult cartoons are much worse.
Hmm.
You know, in
Well,
today's era.
yeah.
Fantastic Four movie, the original one, not like the original
Sue
one
Storm.
from like
No,
the
no,
80s.
with yeah, no. I know the one you're talking about. I actually like those ones. I actually like those in the Silver Surfer. I don't care.
Yeah,
They're like they were terrible. Shut up. I don't care. I like them.
that was the last time I saw modesty in a superhero film,
Well,
and
and
that
who
was
wa-
when Jessica Alba's
that
Sue
that's what it was.
Storm, was literally naked, and she just accidentally reappeared because she couldn't control her powers yet in front of this
Mhm.
crowd of people on the side of the road, and she's
Mhm.
like so angry about it because they coerced her into doing it.
Yeah, and you know that was I like things like that because I always looked at that scene because I'm a weirdo, and instead of just going, "Oh God, Jessica Alba naked on screen," but I always looked at that scene as the consequence of superpowers,
Right.
and it's why some of my favorite moments because I've always been a movie and TV guy, and I'm only recently getting more and more into books and comics and things like that. But I've always watched things that were inspired. I always watched the animated Justice League, the animated, the Iron Man show, the Hulk, the X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman, like there's Batman Beyond, Superman, Justice League, all that stuff. But the scenes that I loved the most were the scenes that discuss the consequence of power. And it's
Yep.
why one of my favorite scenes is from, I believe it's the end of Justice League Unlimited. Yes, where Darkseid shows up. And you get that famous Superman speech where Superman stands there and he goes, you know, what we have here is a rare opportunity. Because I live in a world that feels like it's made of cardboard, and that's what he says. He goes, I live in a world that feels like it's made of cardboard, and with every step, I have to be careful that I don't cause an earthquake. What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose, and you just go, oh crap, there's actually a consequence to being Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
nerds
one of
have been making that joke though forever. Anyone that is into comic books and was 12 years old has had the conversation with their buddies about whether or not Superman would kill Lois Lane when they were having sex.
And here's the thing. Here is the thing. Barring whether or not you go the Hancock route, the idea of a man who lives in a world and he has so much power and he has to have that much control over his power all of the time must be excruciating. And on top of that, the man is also the symbol of hope and peace for the world.
That's the thing. It depends on your outlook.
Well, but no, that's how he kind of was for like a long time until they fucked him
his
up.
Outlook as that symbol of justice and fairness and genteel was that he felt he should treat the world like it was cardboard. Not that it necessarily was.
No,
guys,
no, but
let me interrupt for a second here. Please continue the conversation. I need to be right back. I think the dog is being urgent for a reason.
So
I'll be
let the
back
dog
shortly.
out.
I also need to be urgent for a reason, so I will also be back. Richard, Daniel, it's up to you. Save the stream.
Just us.
Save the stream.
Oh no, man! I was gonna say I still have questions about the campaign, so you know.
Okay, so stop doing that crap, Daniel. I literally I'll be back. Just don't do that again. Just Richard, keep him in check like you keep me in check.
Well, I can only try.
There's no controlling me. You guys
I was
know
gonna
this
say,
already.
in a way, he's worse than you.
Hmm.
I resent that fact.
I do what I want.
Yeah. Slower to get moving, but harder to stop.
If there was anything that described me, that would be it. Yes.
No, I was gonna say, if I have any gaps in my knowledge, I think probably modern comics is probably one of my big ones, because I have uh, read just tons of these huge compendiums from the golden age uh,
I have quite a few myself.
series. I'm going to actually go to the chat real quick, because Skunk's Workshop is asking about the next moves for the Iron Age Media website. But thank
Good
you for
question.
providing a topic real quick.
Good question.
I've been saying for a while that I was going to convert the site to a live site and incorporate some additional features through that. And
What does that mean to the boomers?
well, that means right now it's a static site, and so everything up there is pre-generated, and then I upload it. And if I want to make any change to the site, I generate the entire site over again and upload it again. I've made some, well, actually, a friend of mine made some changes to the upload system, which have made it so that I can plan out content for weeks in advance if I wanted to. So that has kind of put that on the back burner. And also, as I've sort of interacted with people in the space, creators in the space, I'm less convinced now that that's going to be the best, like the best value in terms of what I put towards time and money towards. And the problem I'm kind of trying to tackle, or I'm going to be trying to tackle, is two things really. One is visibility, and the other is reviews. Okay, so there's been problems with there's been problems with things like Rotten Tomatoes and even Goodreads, for example, not being forthright about how their reviews are and how they're shared and everything else. And there are ways. What I don't want to do is create another clone of those and say, all right, this is our version of that. What I'm going to be trying to do is create something that's more like a public database that anybody can put information into in a specific manner, and then collate all that information however you want. So the information would be out there and immutable. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that in a way that is beyond my control and can also be done very cheaply. So, yeah, that's what I'm currently working on. As far as comments on the new version of Iron Age Media, eventually I might go that route. The problem I have is with duplicating functionality that's already available through other sources, and also not allowing, and also releasing control of moderation. So, and then increasing my moderation load. So right now, I'm going to make some site improvements over the next 2 weeks because I've got some time off, but I'm not going to be rebuilding the thing like I had initially planned. So at this time, no comments. I do want to try and make it more interactive. I've been looking at some back end stuff that I can change that makes the site a little bit more. I'm not going to add a search feature, but I will probably have some filtering options that will make things like the articles page a little bit less of just an absolute.
Yeah, you're going to need a search feature sooner rather than later, though.
Eventually. For now, I'm going to be going more towards just a filtering feature.
Yeah, which as much content as is moving through that website.
It's starting to. Yeah, it's starting to get there. I really am wanting to let it grow for a little bit longer, get this next concept I have off the ground and prototyped. And then if that takes off, then that's the direction I'll go. And if it doesn't take off, then I'll refocus on the website.
Only thing I have to say about that
He
wonderful
does actually have a
information.
gilded server.
Yeah, he does. One thing to say about all that wonderful information is don't be afraid to mimic what other sites are doing.
Oh, I
Whereas-
don't get me wrong. I'm literally going to Goodreads and Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm copying what they're doing, and tried to figure out exactly,
Well, they figured out the format that's
I have no shame
attractive
in that
to,
regard.
yeah, it's a
get it.
format that works. You can improve it with your
Right.
perspective, but absolutely use the formula.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So I'm going to make an executive decision.
Welcome back, gentlemen.
Yes. And so what
Thanks.
that is I would like to give the next 8 to 9 minutes. At the 2.5 hour mark, we'll go and we'll start reading super chats and we'll engage with the chat at that point. But I would like to give the rest of the 8 to 9 minutes to Dojo to talk about his book, and I'll put it up here, and he can talk about it and let us know his future projects.
All right, thank you.
And
I
No
will
tangents
interject
about
one quick
sexuality
question.
in comics.
Yeah.
No, and hey, I did that for
I
a
stole
reason
that
because
one. Sorry.
I wanted to highlight the conversations that are happening over on his YouTube channel.
Yes.
Because I legit enjoyed the conversations that our guest is having on his YouTube channel. And I had to find my own clunky way to bring up what our guest is doing on his YouTube channel while he was also talking about his comic books. I didn't do it the best, but at least I did it.
Um,
It's like a version
I
on
did have
prom
one
night.
quick
You didn't
question.
do it the best, but you did it at least.
I don't think it works that way in this medium, my friend.
Sorry, the construction
Moving
worker's
on,
coming. I
Dojo.
told you the
No,
construction worker would start to come out. It happens. So-
my quick question for you was on some of the higher tiers with like the you have like a game, I believe is one of the things. Like,
Yep.
how did you? One of the things I've kind of been wondering about is kind of like the multimedia approach. Is that something that was intentional, or are those kinds of requests? I saw 3D printed figures and stuff like that.
That is, I'm seeing that that's happening on a lot of different campaigns. And when I show you the game that you referenced, that was largely because I hadn't seen that before, and I wanted to bring something new to the table and generate some further interest. I've also been suggested that I take the game by itself to Kickstarter, which I might do because I guess games do really well over on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds awesome.
I'll definitely show that game off in just a little bit here. This, what I want to do though is this cover here that's been on the screen for a while. This is an homage cover also. Some of you who've been around for quite a while may recognize this as an homage to Punisher #2 from the 5-issue miniseries that Mike Zeck did. So this is a homage to his cover. Here's some of the interior art. We saw some of this in the trailer. Some of this is new. You haven't seen it in the trailer yet, like Cactus Kid on his horse here wearing the badge. This one I felt was okay to show. This is the big reveal of when he becomes Projectile Reptile, but that's not a surprise because after all, you've seen that on the cover.
Yeah.
So, I figured this would be a neat way to show how Caius, handles the transition and the big reveal. And then here's some pages where, or at least a page of when Black Eagle and Red Hawk and Kitty Hawk make an appearance. For the first 100 backers, they'll get this magnet by 6 a.m. And there are still a few options or opportunities to get in on that. We're approaching 100 though. Now, if you look at the campaign at the top, you'll see we have 105 backers. So this is for the first 100 backers of a physical tier. If you get the digital, I'm not going to send you a book, so I won't send you a magnet. So yeah. There are add-ons, one of which is the full comic book sized print that was drawn by Peter Orchard Studios. He is actually the winner of the Projectile Reptile fan art contest. So, I mean, this is just, I'm not going to say it's just fan art. It's fan art, and he's good enough that, I mean, wow, this could be a cover, honestly.
Mhm.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
You can, if you buy, let's say if you back the hardcover or you back cover A or B, you can get the other A or B as an add-on. There's a digital version. You can get just the digital for $12, or if you get it as an add-on, it's only $8. Because I figure you're also buying the physical book itself. So I'll give you a break on the digital if you also want to have it, in your mobile device. There's a set of. Oh, go ahead.
Random, just squirrel moment. Is there? And this is probably a stupid business decision, but is there a way or a potential future of people who back projects to have some version of an exclusive, like, one-time code they could share with their friends to say, hey, I backed this project, it's on my dime, I really liked it, but for this next person's project, but anyway, I paid, I got the whole package deal, and I got 5 codes to send out, or 5 things to give out to my friends for digital, as like a way to get to spread the word. And so they share those codes, and the first 5 people who redeem those codes, it just shuts off after the first 5. But it's a way for people, 1, to support you, and 2, to give your stories to their friends, to hopefully get their friends involved. Is there an apparatus built to kind of do that? Or
I'm not tech savvy enough to know if that can be done, particularly to shut it off after it's been shared 5 times. That sounds like a great idea. It sounds like it's something they could do. I just don't know how it's possible. But
You'd need to have, I was going to say, you'd need to have the back end information. And also, maybe that's something that Kickstarter could do now that they've moved to blockchain technology. So, because that's exactly the kind of thing that enables. But anyway.
But I do have to say, I really like the idea, because I mean, it gets the comic out in 5 more people's hands. And it could be like the Germac commercial, because they may tell 2 friends, and although they may not be able to share it with 2 more people, they might be able to, those 5 people might talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just just a random idea, and it's kind of, it's less of the, because as somebody, I did the music thing for a while, and I always hated the idea of giving your artwork away for free. But I don't feel that's giving your artwork away for free, because you have your backers, and for a certain price tier who buys the package deal,
right,
you get 5 friend codes, or a friend code that can be
I like
activated
that idea.
5 times, and so you're getting paid for the work, and just as a perk for getting paid for, and they're going to get posters and artwork and the physical and the digital themselves, but then they also get that friend code that they can send to their other friends. Like, dude, you guys got to check this out, this is really cool, I like this.
Right.
And then at least I don't know, I feel like that could be a way to help get some of these fantastic stories into more people's hands.
Agreed. Yeah.
See, I got a lot of great ideas.
Back
I
on
just
your...
can't.
Okay.
Sorry. Go on.
You're burning the poor man's time.
Right.
I'm not going to do him dirty like that. I could, but I'm not. But I could.
He could. It's his show. This is another add-on. Aren't these cool? These are by Alex Thompson. I found this guy on Etsy, and
those look so great.
He's so great to work with. If you ask, let's say, for example, the upper right there with the druid, if I said I'd like the druid, he gives you 6 different poses in chibi form, and you pick the one you like best out of the 6.
Wow.
Which I think is like over and above, in my opinion. You could just
awesome.
draw one and
really
say,
awesome.
here you go. But yeah, to do 6 of them for each character, that's amazing. Siamese, this is the second printing of Siamese. This cover here was not on the first campaign. This is the entire 128-page trade paperback of the 4-issue miniseries. And this cover here is by the co-creator of Siamese, Cy Lim. He's a New Zealander. Kiwi. Eric Hutfels does these Keshi figures, and these are available on the campaign as an add-on. And he even did one in green for us, so you can see it's going to be monochromatic, so it will come in green. Then here's the game that we were talking about a little while ago, Projectile Reptile Mint Tin game. So it's a card game, and there's a dice aspect to it as well. It's a real simple game. You add up 3 stats of the character, roll 2 dice, and you combine the sum of those 2 numbers. And what that does is even a character with low stats, depending on your roll of the dice, any card can beat any other card. Sometimes it's harder because their stats are lower, but if you've got someone with lower stats and you roll boxcars, you're golden. You can beat anybody.
I am interested in that now.
That's cool.
Can I play it with my kids?
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm down. I'm sold.
Your kids would definitely. The mechanism is easy enough for the kids, and it actually teaches them a little bit of math.
My oldest is a whiz at math.
Okay.
How many people can play that game? Is it one or is it a 2 people? It's a
2-person game. Yep.
It's a 2. Could there be a 4 or 6 person? Because we have a 6-person family, and it would be nice for.
I don't think
a pretty big jump.
I don't think that there's enough cards for 6 people, but
okay.
But maybe 4. There's 10 cards, and the 11th card is the rules card. So I mean,
talking about family.
Yeah. The tins are going to be top load tins, by the way. The picture shows them where it's like laying on its side, but instead it's going to be where the lid is like here and it stands on this end. Because
very cool.
This kind of tin, the cards wouldn't fit in. So I had to punt.
Logistics to work out. Yep.
That's right. Yep. Bog is read this carefully. All foil ash can. Every page is going to be foil, like the old covers, the gimmicks.
Wow.
So every page is a foil page, and it's an 8-page ash can of this character, Bog. And yes, he's a lot like Swamp Thing or Man Thing, but his story will be different. I think that's the important part. It's impossible to come up with a character that hasn't been created over the course of the last 90 years. But what's different is how do you treat the character, what their origin, their motivation, their characterization. So, he looks like those characters, but he's going to be different. In fact, somebody even said Groot.
All plant creatures are now Groot.
No, all trees are Groot, all flowers are Groot. Anything that's ever remotely close to based off of the earth is Groot.
Groot.
So this first stretch goal is a metal trading card of the first cover, and we're close. Under $100 away from that stretch goal. Yep. The second stretch goal will be an additional 8 pages added to the book, which will be a 8-page chapter featuring this character, Dr. Primordial. And in case any of you wonder, will that make your book slower if you've got to add 8 more pages? No, these 8 pages are completely done from beginning to end. These 8 pages are ready to just drop in the file and they're ready to go.
Awesome.
The next stretch goal after that will be an acrylic standee. This one's a little different, though. In addition to the base, it's also got a back behind it, and you can slide different scenes into it. So you can do an Old West scene, a modern LA scene, whatever scene you want the character to be in. And then lastly, I'm hoping to get to this stretch goal. I did a stretch goal of the challenge coin on Siamese. We reached that goal, and this is what it looked like. It is substantial, too. It's a heavy coin. I really love it. And a lot of people that got it did as well. This is just to give you an idea what it might look like. Obviously, it'll have projectile reptile on it, not Siamese, but this is to give you the idea. So real quick, let me spin through the tiers. The Kitty Hawk tier is everything, the whole kit and caboodle. You get all 3 covers, including the exclusive hardcover. You get the digital, you get the ash can, the ketchup tier of Siamese, the game, and the stickers. In fact, I even threw in the print too, that one by Peter Orchard. It's here. You have the opportunity to get a 6 a.m. acrylic keychain. There are only 20 of those available, though. And it's got I love his version of Projectile Reptile. It's such a cool picture.
Yeah, I like it too.
The Keshi figure is available as a tier, as well as a digital, like I mentioned. This is the regular cover, the Renzo Rodriguez variant, same price as the regular. The catch-up tier falls before the hardcover because the catch-up tier is $35. Keep in mind that's 128 pages, so that's a pretty good deal.
Mhm.
And then there's the Shelby Robertson exclusive hardcover. Now there are 125 of them available. It says 13 have been sold, but in addition to these 125, you would also get it if you back the Kitty Hawk tier.
Right.
So for anybody who backed this, and I know it says 2, but there was a secret discount tier for people who signed up before the campaign launched. So more than 2 of these have been claimed. But let's say, just for the sake of this discussion, 10 are claimed. That would mean that if these sell out, 135 will be the entire print run, and that's all.
Mhm.
And that cover won't ever be used again. And another great thing I learned is that Shelby Robertson work has never been featured on a hardcover before. This will be the first time. So
Very
I'm a big Shelby Robertson fan. I mean, his stuff. When I saw that he was a member of this small community of indie creators, I was thrilled because I've been following his work ever since he started inking Liefeld's work. So it's great to have him on my book. I was excited that he had the time to do it. He said, "Listen, I'm super, super busy, but I want to do this for you. Here's the thing, though, Dojo. When I do this for you, you're going to have to take it like it is. I'm not going to have the time to make any alterations." And I'm thinking, it's Shelby Robertson. It's going to be fine. You know what I mean? Yeah, dude.
Well, sir,
Yeah.
I just. How dare you? My God.
Whatever you do, I'm sure it'll be just fine.
I love.
So-
said that to many
love
authors.
I love when people do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. You're just gonna have to. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like,
Yeah, right.
do you understand who you are? They don't.
Yeah.
They don't, by the way, and that's what keeps them humble, and I love it.
No,
That's right. He is one of
just
those
like the
that
rest of us.
he's one of those that doesn't pat himself on the back. I think he knows his skill level. I just think he doesn't want to be a braggart about it. I think that he is humble and appreciates people who are fans.
Yep.
So yeah, you can see here. What's that? That's $56 away from reaching the $6,000 stretch goal.
Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't try
That
this at
is-
home doing math on stream.
Yep. Don't math on stream. I am not the smart right now, and don't and I know my viewers, and at least a good chunk of them are a few drinks in.
Right.
I know I am.
Well,
So when can backers expect this? Or it's funded, obviously, but I wasn't
It
sure
is
what the
funded,
timeline
so
was.
you can back with confidence. I have fulfilled the 4, so there's another reason you can back with confidence. And the artist is turning in the pages at a pretty darn good clip. I expect that, as mentioned on the campaign, I know we didn't talk about it, but it's on there. The goal is to get this out to folks by February 2023. So it's not too far away.
wow, that's a quick goal.
We are more than half done with the line art. The colorist
Right.
is not far behind. And like I said, the letterer is Eric Weathers, so I got no worries about that. I give them to him in batches of 5 pages at a time. He gives me all 5 pages the next day.
Wow.
So yeah, he just knocks them out.
Amazing.
It's what he does for a living now. So it's great that he's on so many different campaigns, and he's really good. The mark of a great letterer is that as you're reading it, it doesn't occur to you that somebody lettered it. You know what I mean? If you stop and think about the letterer, they haven't done their job right.
Yep.
Unless you're wowed by some like special effects, like, oh, that dude, he incorporated that into the art. That's different. But if you have to stop and think about the lettering, they didn't do it right. Eric is not guilty of that. He is very good at making it flow, proper word balloon placement, and given that the artist gives him space. But my artist is really good at that.
That's awesome. I love seeing how many creative people are getting together and making things happen for, I guess, the greater good of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thing that I want to see. Not necessarily for myself. Like I said, I've consumed enough stories in my life to fill several lifetimes. I want to see good stories that my kids can grow up with. And guess what? I say my children, yeah, they're not that old now, and maybe some of the things that you're writing about now, my kids I wouldn't let them. But you know what? They're going to be teenagers. They're going to be young adults soon. Their
Yep.
maturity level is going to change. Give me something. Give me a backlog so I can put something in my kids' hands as they grow up and as they change. So that way they're not seeing all of the horrible degeneracy that's out there.
So I would honestly tell you, Crazy, that when they are in their mid-teens, Siamese would be appropriate, but they could read Projectile Reptile now.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is.
It's not like written for children, but kids can read it.
Well, Ghost of
Excellent.
Tsushima, the video game, wasn't made for children, but it's not overly. It's not over the top enough that I wouldn't let my kids play that. In fact, I have.
Okay.
Like it's. I draw their violence is one thing, and there's a lot of violence I'm okay with my kids seeing. Gore is another thing. I'm not okay with my kids seeing gore. There's a very big difference between violence, even bloody violence and gore. There's a very big difference between a sword slashing through a dude and a blood trail coming off, and the guy's intestines hanging on the sword as the dude's eyes pop out. There's a very big difference between bloody violence and gore. And so, and I make those decisions as a father. What do I allow my kids to see and all that?
Yeah.
I will say this, a rather new development in my life. My wife is going to come pick me up, and we're going to go spend some time together, and hang out here in about 20 minutes. So I need to get to some of the super chats and all that.
Let's do it.
All right.
But before we do that, Dojo, what else can you say? Where can we find you? What are you doing?
Okay, yes. Let me talk about the socials real quick.
Yes,
So the YouTube channel is youtube.com/c/Dojo-kun Comics. There's the website that I saw you put in the both in the chat and the description. I appreciate that. You can either go to dojokuncomics.wixsite.com or you can go to just straight up dojokuncomics.com. And on there's a plethora of information, including my back library of previously published comics. You can find me on Twitter at Dojo-kun Comics, and the same with Facebook. I've tried to keep it very consistent so that there is a name and brand recognition.
That's important.
And
That's absolutely important.
If you feel that your campaign has been cloned and somebody posts it on a site without your permission or knowledge, if you find out about it and it's fraud, I'm sort of like putting myself out there as the fraud examiner for Indie Comics.
Oh.
So definitely come let me know. If you don't get any kind of results by bringing it to the attention of the corporation that runs the platform, talk to me, because it's, that's my wheelhouse, and I'll see what I can do.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And
Appreciate that a lot.
that is
That's one of those skills where it's like even 5 minutes of your time is immensely valuable because you know exactly what to do.
Mm.
yeah.
Yep.
No, that's man, I am always surprised with the people that we have on and the skill set that people have. It's because you don't realize what you need until you need it. It's kind of like Dojo. Dojo's kind of like a gun. You don't know. You'd rather have him and not need him than need him and not have him. Sir, this is Friday. We don't get that way until Saturday on my show. Trust me, my Saturday streams no holds bar. I am very respectful for Richard and Daniel. My Saturday streams is just me, a guest, and whatever God lets me say, which is a lot.
When does that go on? I want to be there in the chat.
Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central, we actually have Darkish Timeline. He is actually releasing his own and working on his own comic book universe, as well as cards and a whole bunch of stuff. So
7 Central, 8 Eastern.
Yes.
Yep.
That time. Yes.
Got it.
All right. Let's go into the super chats because my wife's going to be here. And she's going to yell at me. And there is no, see, Darkish Multiverse. Oh, the Multiverse. He changed his freaking tag name.
Stop changing your name, Darkish.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He used to be actually known as Ripperverse News Reviews and Theories.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
Darkish Timeline
and
now
Darkish Timeline.
Multiverse.
Exactly. Okay, so
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying. That's why I get my yes. Okay. So okay. So we've got a bunch of super chats from Kikomon. Let's go over to the local side first. Let me get the local side
It's
out
all
of the way.
Kikomon puns over there too.
A lot of it is Kikomon puns. I am not even gonna lie. Kikomon for $1 PC test. He was testing the PC because apparently locals is having. I don't know what browsers people are using or what they're using, but I've never had a problem.
Are we sure it wasn't politically correct test? I don't know.
Probably.
never
Kikomon for
know
$2. What did one butt cheek say to the other? Together we can stop this. Kikomon, I hate you. I love you, but I hate you. Kikomon for another $2. I visited my friend at his new home, at his new house. He told me to make myself at home, so I threw him out. I hate having visitors. Kikomon for $2 again. I will never forget my grandfather's last words to me just before he died. Are you still holding the ladder?
That one I've heard.
Why? I don't know why he's doing dad jokes. The last like 3 weeks, Kikomon's just like, oh, it's a dad
Drinking.
joke.
I think there's a certain drink threshold where Kikomon just transcends.
Cruises right past.
I've witnessed that on my Gilded. I've had a few drinking sessions with him, and I've barely survived. Kikomon for $5. My girlfriend's dog died, so I tried to cheer her up by getting her an identical one. It just made her more upset. She screamed at me, "What am I supposed to do with 2 dead dogs?" I saw where that was going halfway through. Frequency Studios for $5 over on the local side says, I am Groot. Yes. We are all Groots, sadly.
Like the new Spartacus.
Oh my God. Yeah, you saw that last week, Daniel. The I am Calvin.
Yep.
Oh, that was
I am
great.
Calvin.
Over on the YouTube side here, Kikomon for $2 says Daniel P. Riley was worried for my health.
I'm perpetually worried for your health, Kikomon.
Oh God.
The soy must flow.
Oh.
Take care of yourself.
Yes. For $20. Kikomon says live reaction of Kikomon fight song. LOL. Feel free to ignore my drunkard ass. I don't know if I have time to do the Kikomon fight song tonight. That might not be a thing tonight.
You can do it tomorrow.
Right. Oh, where did Jimmy go after getting lost in a minefield? Everywhere.
I threw a dad joke in the chat just since we're on it.
Oh, no. Oh God! Now,
Yeah,
do I
let's
have
hear
to
your
read
dad
your
joke.
dad joke? Okay, I'm gonna have to read your dad
I
joke.
would love to
Let's
die
do it.
quietly in my sleep, not screaming in terror like my passengers.
There we go. Nice. I like that.
Well said.
Oh, good Lord. You're all a bunch of dirty degenerates. You're all just horrible, horrible people.
Yep.
Absolutely terrible people. It's fantastic, though. I love hanging out with the terrible people. I was going to make it. Nope, not going to make that joke. Never mind. Never mind.
That was a Saturday joke.
It was a joke. I was going to say I love hanging out with all the terrible people. Kind of like Jesus. Anyway.
Oh.
You're
Okay,
very.
John Lennon.
This really ties back into the beginning of the stream where we were talking about how humble you were.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eyebrows up, staying up.
Humble and shy.
There was a comedian I think was it who was it? I think it was Ricky Gervais. That he made a joke very similar. You know, he's a guy that goes around just talking to people, kind of like Jesus. That's where that as soon as I said that, you know, I was like, oh no, I love hanging out with the degenerate people, you know, and that just triggered the Ricky Gervais joke. So it's totally not original. My brain works that way. Oh, good God. But
10
ladies
minutes,
and
Royce. 10 minutes.
I know my wife actually just called. I just silenced the phone.
I'm trying to help you, lady. We'll get him off stream.
Oh God. No, so we're all caught up on the Kikomon's gifting another drink with crazy membership. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And guys, I would love to hang out a little longer, but last minute my wife was like, "Hey, you want to go to the bowling alley and hang out with me and all of our friends?" And the answer to that is yes. Yes, honey, I would love to.
The answer is yes, regardless of how you feel. The answer
Friday
is
night
yes.
rock and roll.
Yes, the answer is yeah. Yep. Also, my new bowling ball is done, so I want to go test that out and see how it handles on. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Hopefully this one flips harder and comes off of the 8. Never mind. Not going to get into bowling terminology.
So
Let's
for
say
all of
goodbye
you
to
who
the
are
chat
here,
and get that outro going.
yeah. So for all of you who are here, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, A Drink with Crazy.
Oh my God, he's better at
And
it than
then-
I am.
And then,
Yeah.
well, I got to show myself too. Make sure to go check out Dojo Kun Comics and see if there's some stuff over there you'd like to subscribe to.
And I am actually
Definitely.
sharing
There
the incendiary sex appeal in comics. What crosses the line? That is, I literally love that conversation so much. That is
Cool.
the one that I want people to watch of yours, because I feel that is you guys touched on something so important there.
And then watch this past Wednesdays where Smiling Bandito and I just kick ass.
Dude, you guys
was pretty funny.
destroyed. Did you watch it, Richard?
Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh. And it was well founded too. I don't think any of those arguments could have been considered illegitimate by any stretch. I really do.
I felt
think
bad.
you guys argued the
Don't feel bad.
you guys argued the comics not being the right medium for horror so freaking well, even knowing that like you guys didn't like necessarily agree. You guys argued it so well, just your opponents were quiet for a while, and I was like,
Yeah.
and even me just listening to the stream, I was like, it is a skill to play the devil's advocate, and to play it well. I got a good friend of mine. He and I love to. I know my Rose is waiting for me, and she is not my Rose. She is my Moonlight. She is not my Rose. Rose is her middle name. She is my Moonlight, because in my darkest of days. Oh, and in fact, here she is. She's not waiting for me anymore. Come here. I love you. You gonna say hi to the peoples? Oh wait, no.
Why do you talk to her like that?
Because he's trying not to get killed.
This is Dojo Kun Comics.
Hi.
Hi, lady.
Dale.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well tonight?
Doing good. We're
We're
trying
about
to
to
do
let-
outros.
Yeah, we're trying. We're going to
trying
let your
get
man
Royce
join you.
to shut up so we can finish the
Just
show.
say.
Oh, love the shirt
I have
too.
no idea what they're saying.
Thank you.
There we go.
I'm
Oh yeah, it's
drinking
a
and
good
I'm
one.
trying to get him to go drunk bowling with me.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh joy.
Let's
All right,
go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think with that being said, it's about time to say goodbye. It's about time to cue the music, as long as I can cue it properly. Richard, Daniel, do you guys got anything to say? What do you want to do?
Go
Let's
vote.
do the outro.
Go
Let's
read
go,
the short-
man.
Go read the
Hey,
short
well.
stories on Iron Age Media. Go check
Yes.
out Projectile Reptile.
Now everybody's in a rush.
Oh, God.
dear.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize to cut it short tonight. I usually try not to do this, but time with my wife is time that is invaluable. And,
Very
well,
important.
gentlemen, although I love hanging out with you, you are not remotely close to as hot as my wife. Like, it's just not a thing. It's just not. And I would hope that I am not as hot as your wives, or else there's an issue. So
You are not.
thank you. Thank God.
Giant
Thank you.
humble thing again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out A Drink with Crazy. Oh, and Dojo, it gets a little weird here. Just accept what's about to happen. It's fine.
Iron
It's
Age
fine.
Nights, sir.
Yeah, just accept what's about to happen. It gets a little weird.
There
It gets a
we
little
go.
weird.
You
It's
left
the outro. We just
There we
screw
go.
around.
You
Go
talked over
we,
it.
go you, come on.
Come on! Swift Sword Rush! Have a great night, buddy. It's awesome to see you. Joseph Peck, let's go! Yeah.
Bowling.
Yeah, well, I'm supposed to do
Yeah,
that
let's
thing.
go bowling. There you go.
Don't judge me.
No, who's judging? I'm down.
You
If I
guys
was like
say,
not hundreds of miles away.
well, I know. See, that's the thing is we need to grow this big enough that we have in a drink with crazy like meetup, but like also at a brewery. Because I feel like that's where we would meet up is at a brewery.
Well, I mean, it is in the
We're
name. I
gonna
think that's a
need,
given.
It is. It is.
And look at the logo.
Herman P. Hunter's the Lore Forge later. Good show, guys. GG's all around. Good game, everybody. Good game. Good game.
And
Keep
good
going.
night, everyone.
Good night, dear chat. We love you.
Oh, God. It is so loud in my ears right now. Can you guys hear
Konbanwa,
how loud it
Kikoman.
Oh, 420. Oh, for 420 over on Locals. Frequency Studios says good night. Thank you so much for that 420 on Locals. Thank you. I didn't see that. Thank you so much, Kiko Man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a fantastic Friday night. We will see you tomorrow right here at 7 p.m. Central.
Good night, everybody.